Alrighty. Should be live. Hello. It's been a couple weeks, I think, since I last streamed. That was DMC4, I think. I might be doing some of that today. I was planning to do this stream about 12, 18 hours ago before I got my day started today. I work night shift, so it feels like yesterday, but it was technically still today. As you can tell by the name of the stream, it was my birthday. And, here, let me get somewhere where it'll be a little bit quieter. That's better. Yeah, it was my birthday. Kind of still is. I don't know. I like to, I think one day out of the year is a bit too small for that, so I like to say for like a few days around your birthday, it's still your birthday, but that's just a personal preference. You can do whatever you want. Celebrate however you want. It's your birthday. Not nearly enough reasons for people to celebrate nowadays. Anyways, yeah. I had a bit of a day yesterday. Went to my doctor, got some meds that'll help. That's a whole conversation that I don't know if I'm gonna have on stream, but after that, hung out with my brother for a few hours because we're twins. It was both our birthdays. We got some cake, got some pizza. Wasn't the ideal hangout, but I'm still glad that I tried. Push myself out of my comfort zone, talk to some new people. I think I'm getting better at that. Might get a whole lot better at it soon. I mentioned that I talked to my doctor, got some meds. I take ADHD meds to help me manage my ADHD. It's minimum I need to get work done at my job, but if I take it around the house, it also helps me be more efficient when I'm trying to do projects. That's something I just did. I like before my streams, I like to take my meds. Like about half the time when I want to focus my thoughts. The other times, if I'm just trying to chill, I don't. But I got some stuff I want to get done today on stream, and that's why I took my meds. But those are my ADHD meds. Talked to my doctor. They got me some antidepressants, which is something I've been struggling with lately. I've been listening to a lot of 21 Pilots, and I've been relating way too much to some of their songs about aging, death, stuff like that. Those thoughts have been weighing heavier on me lately, so got some meds that'll probably help. But if I could stop venting about my day for a minute, because I want to focus. The point of this stream, writing, gaming, mostly chatting is the name of it. I'm going to be primarily focusing on yapping today. That's just the thing I like to do. But I got a couple things I want to do. So, writing. I recently started working on that project I mentioned before again, because like every time I play DMC, like any hack and slash game, or I even just look at the games I've played before, I see the connections between them, and I really want to talk about them and learn more about them. So I started working on that again. I started typing up a script for that video, and I also ironed out what I want the video to be about. So I do think I'm going to keep working on it, and if it ever is a finished thing, I'll be happy about that. I'm going to try to make it a finished thing, but I'm not very good at committing myself to projects, so no promises yet. Not to myself, at least. But that's one thing I want to do today. I want to write. I want to chat, but the other one is I want to game. There's two games I want to focus on playing. I think I changed the description of the stream to reflect that. But I want to do Risk of Rain, because I want to try for another Prestige. No, Prismat. No. What's it called? I don't want to look at it. It's cheating. Eclipse. I want to try for another Eclipse on Commando. And the other thing I want to do, I want to play Night in the Woods. I want to see if I can relate to that game at all, and I think it'll be a fun little thing. Maybe do that to cap off the end of the stream. No promises about how long I'll play that. But took my meds not too long ago. They're the fast acting kind, so it shouldn't take more than 30 minutes for them to kick in. So I'm going to do a run or two of Risk of Rain, and then I'm going to focus on writing. Do that for like an hour or two, and then we'll just game for the rest of this night. That sounds fine. My sleep schedule's all sorts of messed up right now because it's 6 a.m. I work at 6 p.m. and I woke up like 2 hours ago. I work 12-hour shifts, so I should be waking up a lot closer to work, so I'm hoping to get a few hours of sleep in before my shift, but I'm, for the most part, going to be up until it starts, so I got about 8 hours to kill. But that's enough of the preliminary yapping. Let's start playing some Risk of Rain. What am I looking to do here? Prismatic. No. Eclipse. I also wanted to say I'm gonna. I didn't realize how high I'm getting up on here. Let's see. Enemy gold drops. Yeah, I can deal with that. Slows the game down, but I like the longer games anyways. I mean, I like it when it's more difficult. I don't like it when the runs go on an hour and a half every time. So maybe we'll try to speed run a bit. Oh yeah, something I'm gonna do. From now on, I'm disabling Alloy Collective. I just don't have fun playing with that. There's like, I think for the first two expansions, I enjoy most of the content they add to the game. I think I could say I easily enjoy, I enjoy more from the Void DLC than I do from the Seekers of the Storm, but I think they're both solid additions. I think I enjoy at least 80% of the content from both. If I had to give it a more accurate estimate, it'd be 90% from the first one and like 80% from the second one, or 70% from the second one. But I think I don't even enjoy half the content in the Alloyed Collective, and the stuff I dislike about it greatly outweighs what I like about it. There's like one stage and one song I enjoy, and even then I don't enjoy the stage that much. I just enjoy the song on the stage. And then it's like the rest of the stage, like all the stages I don't like. I don't like the theming of it. I just don't really have any reason to enable it, and it adds in one of the worst enemies I've ever had to deal with in this game. An enemy that completely disables your items. Also an enemy that steals your items. I don't think those abilities should be locked to anyone except the boss. So like putting that on a common encounterable enemy just so you can randomly get hit by their ability and insta lose a run because it removed every single buff you have in the game doesn't sound like a lot of fun to me. So we're not going to be playing with that on anymore. Let's see. Yeah, I can handle this. Let's see. Do I want a skin? Nah, I like base commando. Oh. I might already be dead. Didn't notice that wisp. Okay, med drone. That'll help if I can get it. That's a gup. Oh, that's a laser. 2 med drones. Alrighty, got a nice little train going on here. Always get a bit of a COD Zombies vibe whenever I play Commando on these maps. That differs a lot in the way that it does from how you play other characters. Like, that's what I like about playing Commando is... Okay. That's because he's overloaded, right? I just realized he did like a little lightning effect after he shot me. That's because he's overloaded. He's a shielded creature. Gotcha. Ooh, Monster Tooth might actually be a good purchase here. Yep, we need it. Okay. Okay, I need that healing ASAP. Alright. Heal. Thank you. Alright, we're just going to collect all this healing in just a second. Nice, getting a little bit of vamp off all these guys. That's nice. Alright, now we're starting to get our footing. Whew. That stuff, man, that's why I like playing Eclipse so much. It's just barely hanging on by the skin of your teeth. Love that stuff. I think that's part of why I like the harder difficulties on Devil May Cry so much. I really want to go back through DMC3. I I guess this gives me an opportunity to talk more about my thoughts on DMC4. It's not a bad game. It's a solid addition to the franchise, but I don't think it's the best. I would still highly rate 3 over 4 so far, and I'm hoping that 4 can give me more of a reason to put it on the same pedestal as 3, but I don't think that's going to be the case with the game's over. I think I'm about a third of the way through the game so far. I have a feeling I know how the story's going to go, though. I mentioned this, I think... No, I didn't mention this in a stream, actually, yet. But after taking some time to collect my thoughts, currently, the way I think it's going to go is, like... Especially after that conversation they had with, Nero. Well, it wasn't a conversation. It was more Nero talking to himself after beating up the, bug-looking priest guy that was working on the sword with experiments. He didn't kill him, but he flew off. He remembers that when he picked up that sword, he heard a voice speaking to him, and he only heard it one other time before when his arm first awoke, and it just told him to acquire more power. There's only one person we know who talks about power like that. I'm pretty sure it's Virgil. So Virgil's talking to Nero, telling him to get more power. I have a feeling that, because, like, the opening of the game set up with a few cliches that I felt like I saw coming, at least. Like, oh, hey, because, like, the franchise is already established with 3 previous games that your protag is Dante, and Dante's not a completely bad guy. Don't even think it paints him as, like, a bad guy. He's just a jerk sometimes, but he has a heart of gold in him, you know? So, opens up with the first game with him being the bad guy. Well, we know that's poppycock. There's got to be some reason why he's doing all this stuff, right? What's his motives? That's the question. That's what gets you hooked into the game. Why would he assassinate a good guy who's preaching his father's virtues, right? Almost immediately into the story, we learn there's more going on behind these guys that seem to be good than we think. I also think I called that, saying I don't think that guy that got assassinated is going to be really dead. But, I need to go charge up that pillar. Hold on a minute. So what it seems like is, so we have like a twist, the first twist of the story. Oh, Dante's not a bad guy, but like we all knew that. That one's not actually supposed to be a twist. It's just like unexpected story development. The question is just like, why is Dante assassinating this guy? And immediately gets you thinking, okay, maybe there's more to those guys than we think. But something else I think is going on is I don't think those guys are actually the like primary overarching villains of the game. Kind of like in the third game, how it's like, oh, it turns out it wasn't Virgil being the overarching villain, it was his assistant. The way the game's setting up so far, because they also haven't introduced Trish or Lady yet, and they're supposed to be like major characters in this story. I think we're gonna get in, because the way I also mentioned it is like, I feel like this game's playing out in 3 acts, and getting to the jungle, we just got through Act 1. We moved out of our first big chunk of the game, we moved to the second. I feel like we're in Act 2 now. In Act 2, we're gonna meet up with the current big-time villains, like the priests or what have you. We're gonna beat them, and Act 2 is gonna conclude with revealing that the actual big overarching villain this entire time was Virgil, since we haven't seen or even heard a peep of him except for what Nero said, hinting at him. And Act 3 is gonna pick up with us having to defeat Virgil. And that becomes what the overall goal of the game is. Like, oh, it turns out Virgil was the one pulling the strings the whole time, and now we all got to gear together to get Virgil, because, like, that seems to be the vibes it's going for, at least, because why would we have every character come back? Why would they bring Trish back? It feels like they're gearing up to have everybody who's been a part of the franchise so far come together for one final stand against Virgil. At least that's my theory going forward. And I think, like in 3, we're going to fail once again, and that's where Devil May Cry 5 is going to pick up. Like, the first 2 games, we failed to put a stop to Virgil, and this is going to be the one where it all finally comes to a head. I need to get some damage items. Like, I got good sustain items, but if I don't get some damage items soon, I'm going to get outscaled hard. I'm taking way too long in the stage. Let me think for a second. Alright. Take this. That's going to hurt. I forgot fall damage is lethal now. Might be dead here. Unless I can get some big heals off this group of enemies. I'm not going to be able to get their heals out unless I want to die. I need to take care of that wisp who keeps shooting me. Oh, that's exactly what I didn't want to happen. Oh, that's annoying. I just spent that entire time trying to get up there and I fell down again. Let's try to finish charging it up from here. I do think I'm gonna die here. If I start this teleporter event, maybe the left tunnel Daisy will heal me up before I take any damage. Damn, got distracted by Vinny just as soon as I started that fight. That's unfortunate. Okay, let's start again. Hopefully we'll get some DPS items. I think we got, like, some good sustain and stuns. I'm gonna also lock my door so he doesn't do that again, because that is annoying as hell. Alrighty. Let's try that again. Ooh, Blood Shrine is tempting. No, we'll do it. I need that money. I ain't having another slow run. Besides, I like living on the edge. If that's Monster Tooth versus Gasoline, I already know what I'm taking. You know what? This is Commando Run. Normally, I would love to take Monster Tooth over all those other options. I love sustaining these, but I want to try to go for a faster clear. I think playing dangerous instead of playing safe is the way we do that. Is that Paul's goat hoof? Ooh, mama. That's a good one. Hopefully I can find a scrapper, because I'm not losing my soldier syringe for that. Oh, I love being able to hear the sounds of those things spawning in. I'm getting good at this. Easy choice. I'm gonna need that. Especially with how delayed the heals are in this game. I heard that. But I feel like I heard another one over there. It's there. Oh, medkit. Love my medkit. I heard Ari talking about how bad healing is in this game and how it's not as good as I gassed it up to be in Eclipse, but I specified to them that's pretty sure that's mostly just the case when you're playing in like Eclipse like 6 or higher. No, I'm on Eclipse 6. I don't remember which Eclipse level it is, but it's the Eclipse level where it starts giving you, like, perma damage. Because at that point, it basically turns the game into a Souls-like. Because to my knowledge, it adds a ramping damage modifier that is just, like, effectively permanent damage. Like, every time you take damage, it lowers your max. If you've ever played, Don't Starve Together, it's like that. Yeah, I've been going through it the last couple weeks, last month, really. I think part of it is, chronic expansion. Yes, please, to ramping DPS. I think part of it is that, I haven't been feeling as fulfilled in the things I do. No, thank you. Biggest way to lower your DPS if you're trying someone on hit that goes for proc chains. And that's one of the things that Commando excels at the hardest. So, as much as I love myself a good lunar item, no guarantee I'll be able to get it off me before the end of the run. Oh yeah, Cautious Slug. Oh, my health woes seem to be under control for the most part. This doesn't feel like a lot of items. You know what? We'll just start the boss fight. Because I'll get enough money for a couple more crates. A couple more crates is all I want, really. I feel like I'm pretty strong for where the boss fight's going to be at currently, so let's get that over with. Okay. I think I might have to create some distance here. As much as I want to charge this portal, it feels a bad idea of being this close to the action. Yeah, no, distance creating, that's the name of the game here. On second thought, I'm taking that. I need that power to get through this fight. I'll get rid of it later. And if I don't, woe is me, I'll have to deal with lower luck. I know how bad that's gonna cripple my DPS so bad late game, but I don't have a choice. I need that CDR yesterday. God, that beetle guard's so fast. The big one. Okay, she's dead. This is bad, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. Thank God I could just do, I forgot I could just do that. Chronic expansion is doing so much work for me right now, and so is that purity. This is gonna get me killed. Okay, that extra beetle guard is helping take the focus fire off me, and I appreciate that. But you see, that's the stuff I love about this, man. That was like actual Doomslayer levels of insanity, and I love it. I say that fully never having played a Doom game in my life. It's just vibes. Like, that was Commando versus an entire army, and I took them all on, and I won. Alrighty, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna quickly take our loop through this stage and look for items, because a drone and like 4 items, that cannot be it. Oh man. Can stages really be this barren? Is there just nothing here? Okay, no, I see a drone. Okay, luck of... Shrine of Luck. I'm pretty sure I already hit this. I didn't get anything, but I'm pretty sure I hit it. Crowbar. Not ideal. We'll hit it one more time. Okay. And now if I see a crate, I should be able to afford, like, one more crate. But let's just get out of here. I got an extra item and a drone. I think that was worth the extra minute. Paul's goat hoof is tempting, but I think the rest of the items I have are just too valuable to risk losing. Also, can I really just have 2 beetle guards? Oh, I can. I thought it would, like, just make the first one stronger. Cool. Well then, this first stage isn't as bad as I thought it was. I think that's about the average amount of items you'd get for the first stage. I got, 2 drones and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 items. Not bad. And with how high cooldown my phase blast is, or how low cooldown I should say, dealing with groups of enemies should be much easier. So I do appreciate that. Gasoline, that's a yes, actually. Okay, group DPS is huge now, and with chronic expansion, that means the fastest way for me to ramp the DPS is just spam phase blast into a group of enemies. My single target DPS isn't bad either, because I have a soldier syringe and a chronic expansion, so as long as I have something to kill. That's scrapper. No, it's tarp. Oh, that's expensive. That's because it's a missile drone? No, 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 not you, buddy. Yeah. Alright. How many beetle guards I have? I can kind of run and loot, though. Which probably should be what I'm doing, honestly. If there's a blood shrine here, I'm wasting time. Because I could be just hurting myself to get it. Take this. Could be a credit card. Oh man, that is less than ideal. Soldier syringe, I think that's a big yes for me. Abso-frickin-lutely. That's a scrapper. White scrap's always good to have, actually, so let's get rid of that crowbar. And maybe a better equipment. Life fruit. Absolutely better equipment. Oh, that's a great, like, pick-me-up. I love to have that. Priority's good in the short term, but I still need to keep my eyes peeled. I want to get rid of this thing ASAP. That's a soldier syringe 3D printer. Stun grenade. Honestly, stun grenade. Yeah, we turn a white scrap into that. That's more CC. Crit classes. Oh, but that's... Oh, man. See, this is where because we're starting to scale now. This is where you really start to feel the pain from purity. I, I, I don't know the math. I don't know the math well enough to tell you exactly what it does, but I'm pretty sure the chances of me getting a crit are exponentially lower because of purity. Because I have to roll a 10% chance twice now and take the less favorable outcome, don't I? So, doesn't that mean I have to roll a 10% chance to get a crit twice and get it both times for me to crit? Yeah, we'll use Life Fruit. No reason to hold off, right? And the gasoline's starting to go off. With Chronic Expansion ramping up. In fact, oh, this is scary. This is scary. Focus the big guy. Focus him. Please, 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 please. Oh, man, I wasn't paying attention to my health. That's unfortunate. Oh, that's annoying. Also, I do think, but did I need Purity to beat that first stage? Because I don't know if you saw, I got like no crits during that entire fight. I think I got like 2, and that's just the downside of taking Purity. But it gets worse the longer into the game you get, because the further into the game you get, the more on hit you get. Like, Purity's not bad if you're playing someone like Railgunner, who has guaranteed damage in their kit and it doesn't rely on hit effects. But if you're playing someone like Commando, I think Purity, of all the characters you could take it on, is the most debilitating on Commando. Oh man, that's rough, and I did it to myself. We'll try one more time, but I can feel those meds coming on, so depending on how this goes, I'm probably either way. Oh, sorry. Excuse me. Either way, I'm probably just going to resolve to not do any more runs after this. At least not on Risk of Rain. Ooh, gasoline. See, no, again, I love Monster Tooth. Love it with all my heart. But I really do just appreciate how good Gasoline is at group DPS. It's such a hard thing to come by on Commando starting out. If you remember how that fight in the beginning of the game was going where I got Purity, one of the biggest things I was struggling with was killing a huge group of enemies. That's why I made the deal to take Purity in the first place, because I doubled how many face shots I could put out and help me keep the enemies thinned out while I worked down the Beetle Queen. I really like the design on that. That's fun to look at. Reminds me of the Void, honestly, from Hades. The way you have to sacrifice health for it. No, 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 nope, nope, no. All right, let me think. Gasoline, gasoline, gasoline. We're going gasoline here. As I was saying, like, healing is so hard to come by in the early, but so is AoE DPS. Like, Commando struggles with it a lot. His Phase Blast is the only AoE DPS he has. And the enemies are just so tough starting out, it's not enough. So unless you get something to help out with that, you really start to appreciate just what Gasoline does for you. Alrighty, I think I need to make the deal for this. That was not worth it. Don't shoot me in the back, you Lemurian. Okay, if that thing shoots me, I actually will die. What was that? Oh, okay, it was him exploding. Never heard the sound effect for that before. Chronic Expansion, more DPS, and that, again, works very well with Gasoline. Nude Altar, I do think I'm going to hit that. Haven't seen this one before.
like that spawn location for it. That's new. I like that. Ooh, monster tooth. Yes. Give me that healing. How much healing is this per? Oh, it's +6. Hell yeah. What was that? Oh. Okay. Oh, God, you see that? Gasoline's just so good. I think it's also part of because of how often it procs. It's not like a chance on hit like sticky bombs are. It's every time you kill an enemy, enemies around them will burn and take extra damage. It's Risk of Rain. How often are you going to be killing enemies the whole darn game? Did not dodge that. I was so close to hitting me. Sustain, it's just so good. Ooh, that was a lucky bit of cover I got there. And look, watch this. Gasoline. Oh, gasoline. Burn it all down. Burn it all down. I don't give a... Burn it all down. Burn it to the... You ever hear that song by I Prevail? This is a little bit of interesting stuff I learned about myself the other day. Oh, other month, really. Like, earlier in the year. God, it was February. That was... Oh, my God. It's going by so fast. Yeah. I went to a concert earlier this year. For reference, I've technically been to, like, 1 or 2 concerts before. But I don't count those. Those were concerts that my mom brought me to, so I didn't really get a choice, even if I wanted to say no. And also, they weren't concerts I was really interested in going to, so I was kind of just there. I'm glad I had those experiences, but I hardly remember them because, you know, I wasn't really taking them in because I was a kid that didn't want to be there. I'd rather be home gaming. But I have a bit more appreciation for them now. I've been culturing myself more in music lately, like in the last couple years, especially after I picked up music again. And something I've been doing is trying to force myself to listen to new artists and go to different events to listen to artists in person. I went to a concert for 3 Days Grace earlier this year. I actually, up until I bought the tickets, I'd only listened to a couple of their songs, and I knew I liked their sound. So I thought it'd be fun to try to go listen to them in person and see if they had any other songs I might like. So I avoided listening to more of their discography until the event. But something I did do is I listened to their album for the show, like a couple of songs on their album, and it made me way more excited to go because I loved every single song I heard. Let me make some distance from this guy real quick. Hold on. Give me that healing. I'm going to need it. He's going to catch me, isn't he? Okay, he's not. Okay, now I just have to keep running again. I need your healing so bad. That wasn't nearly as much as I thought it would be. No! Okay, I think I'm done playing for now, because I said I wanted to be. But, oh man, that's so unfortunate. I risked it all for that heal because I'm so used. I don't usually go for those heals from the green guys. I usually just kill their heals so it doesn't heal the enemy. But the only times I've ever grabbed them were like on regular difficulty, so I assumed it would be a full health heal, but I forgot I'm playing on Monsoon, so that heal's like cut in half and then some. Oh, that's unfortunate. Alrighty. But yeah, I went to a concert earlier this year, and it featured 2 other bands that I instantly fell in love with. It was I Prevail and the Funeral Portrait. The Funeral Portrait's music I took to more, but I just like the way that I Prevail perform, the shows they put on. Their music was pretty good too. I didn't think I'd be a fan of Screamo, but I was able to appreciate everything those people put on for me. But my favorite performance out of all three, don't get me wrong, 30 Days Grace is an icon. They're one of the better alt bands, in my opinion, historically and currently. But I think the Funeral Portrait was my favorite. The showmanship they put on that stage, their bass guitar player, I think it was their bass guitar player, it might have been their rhythm guitarist, but the way he interacted with the lead singer, he was spinning around in circles, strutting his legs while playing this song on bass guitar. Like, I can't emphasize how hard that is to do. I started playing guitar like almost a year ago now, and I'm still pretty bad. If you've ever played music before, because this isn't the first time I've learned an instrument, I don't think you ever start to actually feel confident in your abilities or good until you're at least a couple years into your musical journey. And that's how I felt on baritone/tuba when I started in high school. I didn't feel like I was confident in my skills on those instruments until I got like 3 or 4 years in. And that's partially on me because I didn't take my practices seriously. I only ever practiced at school. But even then, practicing like 70% of the year, no, it's more like 50% of the year, because it's like 5 days a week, an hour a day for like 8 months out of the year. That's consistency. Even if I'm not doing it outside of school, which God, I wish I was. I'd be so good by now. You still learn a lot. And I felt like near the end of my senior career that I was pretty confident in my skills on my instrument, and that if I put my mind to any song long enough, I'd be able to get it down pretty darn good. I was playing some pretty impressive stuff in hindsight now that I look back on it. And recently I got back into music, and I'm going somewhere with this because I started with the Funeral Portrait stuff. Playing guitar, it feels like just getting the notes right alone is a struggle. It's insurmountable. And looking on that stage, seeing a guitarist dance while playing at the same time is mind-boggling to me. Like, I tried playing baritone again recently, and while I remember all the muscle memory, my lungs aren't strong enough to keep up, so I'm trying to train my lungs up to be good enough to play again. And I'm thinking about it, I'm like, how the hell did I march this thing and play at the same time? I can't wrap my mind around how I took to that so easily. Probably just because I was younger was part of it. It's a lot easier to learn stuff when you're younger, but also I put so many hours into it. I'm trying to be more disciplined about how I play guitar currently, but I definitely play casually. I don't play seriously like how I used to play in school. I wish I was disciplined enough to force myself to do so, but I think on average I'm putting probably about 15 minutes in a day, or maybe half an hour if I'm being generous. Because the days where I do take proper practice sessions, I probably go for like an hour or two. But then most days I just pick up, practice some stuff I've tried, and then like practice a new measure or two of something I haven't done, and then I do my... Okay, so no, maybe it is closer to half an hour a day. But still, like, I finally learned how to play through an entire cover of a song. Speaking of, I'm going to hold my guitar while I talk about this, because I like my guitar. I like how comfortable a guitar feels in my hand now. I felt the same way when I picked up a baritone again for the first time. But just having something that isn't a keyboard or mouse feel comfortable in my hands feels fulfilling. Feels satisfying. Let me see if I can take one of these ear cups off and listen. Sorry, I got distracted there and started playing through all of them. So the song I learned was 3 Days Grace's Animal I've Become. I learned the bass part. I don't have a bass guitar. I have an electric slash. I think that's the model. But it's a slash. God, I suck with guitar models. It's a slash Les Paul Epiphone, and I've been playing for like on and off, fairly consistently, like 15 minutes or 30 minutes a day on average for a year now. I still feel like I suck, but I've learned like a dozen or so chord shapes by now. I'm learning how to bar, and I can bar a full fret now. But let me finish my train of thought. I'm sorry, I'm rambling. I was practicing Animal I Have Become, and I've been practicing it semi-consistently for about a month now. I can finally play through the whole song. I've memorized the bars. I'm scared to attempt to start trying to sing it because when you start adding on more moving parts to it, it gets infinitely harder. And something I tried to do was I started trying to stand and play at the same time. I have a guitar strap, and that made it substantially more difficult. But after I got used to the feeling of it, because like your hand, the guitar angles up more now, so I have to get used to like how it feels like, because now gravity is pulling my finger differently when I pluck. I don't have it helping me pluck down as hard now, so I have to like pluck harder. And it's like, it's a small things that I'd never noticed before, but I liked it. It was different. It felt like it was making it more challenging, and I got a cooler result out of it for it. So I tried dancing, or at least like doing small movements while I was doing it, and I couldn't, not even remotely. And I'm sure if I practiced more, I definitely could. But looking on it, I'm like, how in the hell do they have to put so much time? And I have to have so much more respect now for the guitarist that like dances on stage with the lead singer. Like, I get it. These guys have played the song like hundreds of times now because they do shows everywhere, and they had to get good songs before they even put shows on. But like, I have so much more respect now for the people that actually dance on stage while playing, because playing the song alone is a tough challenge, but being able to dance and play at the same time, God, imagine, like, I don't think I saw anybody doing this, but I can't imagine being a guitarist and a singer dancing simultaneously while playing. That stuff drives me insane. Let me see if I can actually... Give me a second. I'm going to try to see if I can, like... Can't escape this hell. Heaven knows. No. I've tried. But there's still rage. Wait. Someone get me through this nightmare. I can't control myself. So what if you... No, good. So what if you can see the... God, this is... Okay, so this... I'm not going to practice on stream, but I just realized... How common is this? I could also be completely misunderstanding, because this is my first time trying to sing through it and play it, but like... I tried learning circles by Post Malone. I'm still trying to learn. The main thing I'm trying to get by is learning how to bar an F chord, which, let me actually do that, because I haven't practiced that in a couple days. Oh wait, yeah, that's right. I don't do two. Oh, I'm getting better at it. Nice. But something that I found especially tricky about while learning circles Post Malone was because there's different parts to playing it. So I'm learning the rhythm guitar part because I want to be able to play it on an acoustic. So just learning the strum patterns and the chord shapes, right? So for the chord shapes on that, I did 2 different types of practices. I practiced the strum patterns and the chord shapes, and I managed to get the chord shapes down, or no, the strum patterns down much quicker than the chord shapes, because the chord shapes were fairly simple. The thing is, it just required barring like 2 chords. And barring is infamously one of the biggest and first, like one of the biggest first hurdles that you'll reach as a beginning guitarist. And I can't bar on an acoustic to save my life, but I'm almost there to being able to consistently bar chords on electric. I'm starting to build up a callus on the side of my finger, because you're supposed to use the side of your index a little bit when you play. And my finger strength is getting good enough to where I can bar all except for G string, I believe, which is, like, to my knowledge, one of the harder ones to get down when you're first starting, but you just have to keep practicing, get your technique down, and get your finger strength up. This is going to be one of the things I bring up to my guitar teacher when I have a lesson with him in a week from now. But something I did try to do as well, because I finally got the strum patterns out, is I tried singing and playing at the same time, and oh my god, strumming something in rhythm while trying to sing something that's completely different to that rhythm is so hard. This is something I had to learn how to do in marching band, but learning how to march your feet to a different tempo than what you're playing is incredibly hard. And trying to play 2 different parts that are asynchronous to each other, I'm sure this is something every percussion player knows, because they have to do that stuff constantly. Mad respect for percussion players, but like Post Malone Circles, he doesn't ever sing a complete bar in a full measure. It's like, the way, if I could describe it, at least for the strum patterns I learned for it, he starts singing like a third of the way or 2/3 of the way through the bar of the measure, and he finishes like a third of the way or halfway through the second measure. So there's a little bit of space in between when he starts singing and when he finishes singing at the ends of those. And then also his lyrics carry through 2 bars, especially when he starts singing, like, because it starts off with him singing like half bars, like he sings half the measure. It's just placed weirdly. And then when it gets to the full choruses, like it's like say so, I knew this was doomed from the get-go. You thought that it was special, but it's just the sex though, and I still hear the echo. How's it start? Wait, it goes, we couldn't turn around, gap, till we were upside down, gap. I couldn't be there, gap, even when I try, gap. You don't believe it, gap. We do this every time, gap. And those are all like, they're not exactly half bars, but like he's singing, but he's not singing the entire length of the song. There's gaps. He's not singing on the beats of the measure, and he's also not singing fully in a measure. So I have to like completely disconnect my hand from singing the lyrics, like, because it's just such a hard thing to describe. I never thought that, like, it's probably because I'm not starting off with the easiest song to learn, but trying to sing a song when the lyrics aren't on the beats of what you're playing, and they're not even in the same measure, makes it so tricky, because, like, okay, I can't tie it to the start of the measure, like with my rhythms, and I can't tie it to the start of my rhythms, so I'm singing a part that is completely separated from what I'm playing. Not completely, of course, because, like, the lyrics will always start on the same part of the strum pattern that I'm doing, even if it's not on the down or upstroke, even if it's playing in between the down or the upstroke, it will always land there. But it's still a hard thing to wrap my mind around. It took me ages to get it down. I still can't do it fully all the way through the song, because I started focusing more on some other techniques, like barring, because I need to get that down before I can learn the song. But again, just major respect to anybody who can sing and play at the same time. That stuff is insane to me. And here I am trying to play and dance at the same time, and it didn't go very well. And I'm going to keep trying on both of those. I feel like I'm getting the hang of singing and playing at the same time, because it goes down, down, up, down, up, down, up, no, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, 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 up, no, doom, 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 boom, doom, doom. Yeah, so it is 2 of those. So it goes down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, 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 up, down, up, down, up, down, up. And you basically just loop that. But the strum patterns aren't that simple because like you do that twice, I think, and then on the third one, you're still doing the same amount of strokes, so that doesn't change. But instead of, because like it goes like down, 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 up. That's one chord. You switch to a different chord, up, down. That's a different chord. Up, down. That's another chord. Down, down, up. That's a different chord. Up, different chord. Up, down, down, up. That's a chord. But now on this time, it goes up, chord, up, another chord, up, different chord. So it's like every second measure, every third measure, instead of rotating through like 3 chords, you rotate through 4. Or something like that. Like, I haven't learned it that well because I haven't gotten past the first chord. It starts off on like a... Because like the thing is, this is the interesting thing about guitar that I like so much. I did say this was going to be primarily a yapping sesh, okay? So like, you got promises of a game. Game's been fulfilled. I'm still going to write. But I'm yapping about music now. This is something I really like about guitar, is how... This is probably one of the most... To my knowledge, one of the most... I always want to say flexible. I know there's better words for it in the English dictionary than this. My vocabulary has become very limited in the last couple of years. I'm trying to fix that. It is one of the instruments with the most possibilities in what you can do. I love it because, like, you have dozens of different ways to play a single note on that. It's not like a piano where you can play one note in one octave one way. You can either, well, 2 ways. You can either press, like, say you're playing middle C, that C at that octave, that's a particular note at a particular pitch. And while you can play it on different octaves, it's not the same note. Playing a chord up an octave is notated differently for a reason. It sounds different. So if you played middle C, you have 2 ways to play it. You can press it soft or you can press it hard. And then you can obviously change duration. But like pressing it hard, pressing it soft, that's like the only 2 options you have. You have so many different ways to get that pitch on a guitar. You can bend into that pitch. You can bend back to that pitch. You can do a vibrato on it. You can, and of course these are all like effects you can do, but like you can play that on a thinner string and it sounds different, but you're still technically playing the same pitch. Or you can play it on a thicker string and it sounds different. You're still technically playing on the same pitch, but you're playing on a different width of string. And you can like go on the bottom half of the fretboard. You can go onto the top half of the fretboard. And then when you start applying that to the way that chords work, you can play a chord several different ways in that guitar. It just depends on what you need and what you want it to sound like. And I love that so much about this instrument. I completely forgot where I started with this, but just like... I could nerd out about guitar all day. Oh god, I'm getting the urge to play it now so bad. But I'm trying to focus. Down, up, down, up. Wait. I need a guitar pick if I'm going to do this, because I want to sing through that quickly now, real quick. Let me, just give me a second. I need to do this for my own sanity more than... Wait, I don't even need to do this on my pants leg anymore. This is how I was practicing the chord, the strum patterns. I didn't have, like... So the thing is, I really... My partner does this, my girlfriend. She plays violin at work because on a standard 8-hour workday, you get like 2 15 minutes a day and then a 30 minutes. So that's like an hour of practice you can do every day guaranteed on your work hours. And that's not including the time you can do once you get off of work if you push your breaks together. Some places let you do that, some don't. But even then, 15 minutes of practice is like the minimum you should be doing in any given practice session. It lets you make notable improvement. You prefer more, but it's a good starting place. So... just being able to take a full 15 minutes to practice your instrument is huge. And if you can do that multiple times over the course of the shift, that's great for retention. I want to do that so badly at my workplace, but my workplace is a warehouse. It's not like a nice office. I don't really have a place to keep my stuff, so I'm trying to find out if there is a place I can keep my stuff, because since I work 12-hour shifts, I get 3 15 minutes. That's an hour and 15 minutes I could be practicing a day, and I am allowed to push my 15 minutes closer together or even take them at the same time. My workplace is pretty cool like that. As long as I keep my output up and I respond to Teams messages on time, they don't care. It's a warehouse. They just care about one thing. Line go up, number go up. So as long as I can bring that to the table, I'm allowed to do whatever, not whatever, but I have a lot more flexibility. So something I really want to practice guitar when I get there, but I haven't been able to do it yet. But something I have been doing is I practice strum patterns and singing at the same time when I'm there. It's something I've been doing. I have one part of my pants is significantly thinner than the other. Like, I'm starting to wear a hole into it because I don't have a guitar to practice on. So the closest thing I can get to the same feeling of strumming is I'll take a guitar pick. I always keep guitar picks on me, but I'll take a few with me to work. And when I have downtime on the work floor, or I have a 15-minute break where I want to practice music, I'll start practicing strum patterns on my pants leg while trying to sing lyrics at the same time. And this helped me a lot for learning circle strum patterns. Like, I learned how to sing through like the first 12 bars and do the strum patterns. I just wish that I so bad. Oh yeah, I remember where I was going with this. I so badly wish there were easier fingerings for rhythm because, as I was saying before, there's multiple different ways to do a chord on a guitar, and this is why I love guitar. You have something called like open chords, I believe, and then close. And what that means is like, say you wanted to do an E chord. The cool thing about an E chord, it's one of the easiest chords to do an open strum on. I believe it's 2 and 3 on going from the top, which is your lowest, going from the top of which is your lowest. It's 2 and 3 on the two frets on the second string down and the third string down. So that's middle finger on second fret, second string, and third finger on second fret, second string, and that should be an E. Oh, it's not going to sound, because I don't remember if it's that or one lower, but I just remember it's not going to sound right either because my guitar is tuned to CGCF for Animal I Have Become. Because like I said, I don't have a bass guitar, so I practice it on standard guitar because, you know, it's the same. I found out it's they're tuned to the same notes for the first 4 strings. I would personally prefer to get a guitar with more strings if I go bass. I'd like at least a 5-stringer. But let me see if I can find... Man, where's my tuner at? I need my tuner so that way I can tune this back to... Let me see. I want to tune it back to... Is it on my guitar? No, it's not. I have a pretty bad memory. Sometimes I'll leave my tuners on my guitar physically. I'm not so sure that's good for the tuner. Damn. My desk is such a mess. I need to keep better track of stuff on here. Oh man, I really hope I didn't lose it because I have to tune my guitars regularly. I play them a fair bit, so I can't keep them in tune. I'm not that good at tuning by ear yet. Oh no, my Apple Watch. No, my Apple Watch. My smartwatch fell off my charger. Well, that is really unfortunate. Wait, found it. Nice. Alrighty. But where I was going with this is like, E chord is... This is such a bad idea. I was using my guitar to turn off the light. If I can tune my guitar here. E chord is that finger shape I just mentioned, but that's an open strum. So when you're doing rhythm guitar, chorus, whatever you want to call it, that doesn't sound right. That's not a proper open strum, but I made some weird chord by doing that. Wait, let me see what chord that is. D, cool. Sorry for any gross mouth noises. I've spent the better part of a month now trying to get over a cold. It might have bronchitis, I'm not sure. Oh, that's why it's half a step up. And then E. And then F. Almost. The guitar, the tuner's reading it as an F, but I can't get them all to ring out clearly. Anyways, where I was going with this is there are easier F chords I can strike. Like I was about to say, so when you're playing rhythm guitar, you need to be able to do full strums ideally. Not all chord shapes are built to be strummed fully. Like if you do standard D in like standard tuning, would be in like you strum the bottom four. You strum the bottom four, and I am not gonna say the chord shape for every single one. But if you strum the full, it sounds different because it's not a D anymore because you're adding notes that aren't supposed to be there. So you have to find different ways to do these chord shapes. Because like I know a way to do an F chord. I think it was something like this. That's A minor actually. This is it. Wait. And this. So it's like you bar your first finger on the first two strings. And then your two fingers strum. Your two fingers go up the next two frets. So you're like strumming the bottom four strings. But if you're trying to do rhythm, you can't really do that for an F. So you need to be able to do a full strum. So this is where barring comes in. If you bar a chord and you know the shape for the chord, you can make almost, this is something I really like about bars, is because when you bar with your finger, you're effectively changing where the nut is on the fretboard. Your finger barring is changing where the nut is. So like, if you learn in, I think the first one they teach you is the E chord shape, because it's like you put your first two fingers down and you strum open on the second fret. Is it the second or the first fret? I don't remember, but that creates an E chord. But you can strum, and that is extremely useful for learning how. Once you learn how to do that and you've memorized where the chords are on what chord shapes that you're playing, you've effectively learned how to play most chords on demand in a strumming pattern. That makes rhythm guitar a lot easier, because now somebody can give you chord progressions and strum patterns, and assuming you know how to do your chords correctly, you can figure out how to play along in a song as a cover or a cover guitarist for like a rhythm guitar or chorus in a span of an hour. Hell, if you're good enough, you could even sight read that. So something I'm trying to learn right now, something I'm really trying to focus on learning, it is one of my priorities, but it's not the priority, is I'm trying to spend at least like 5 or 10 minutes a day practicing my bars. I'm not dedicating all my practice time to it, but just trying to get my finger strength up and my finger dexterity to get better at stretching so that way I can play bars consistently. Because once I get that down, that's one of the biggest hurdles out of the way. Then I just have to learn technique, scales, and like get familiar with the distance between my strings. I spent like an hour at work the other day because I had a lot of downtime. It wasn't consecutive, but like I spent like 5 minutes every time I would, because it takes a while for units to boot. I'd spend 5 minutes every time a unit was booting because I could only work so many units in parallel before I start lowering my efficacy. I still have downtime. I'd spend time just like figuring out the distance between strings, because like I'm assuming in standard tuning, I think I did a proof on this because I don't want to look it up, that there's a set amount of... Oh, the music in the game got really quiet for a second. I thought it stopped entirely. There's a set amount of distance in steps between each string. I think it's like 4 steps, because it goes like E, A, B, G, D, F, I think. So like, no, not F, just E, A, B, G, D, E. I think that's it. I think. Like I said, it really shows just how much I've been... This is part of one of my biggest issues I had with my first guitar teacher. Nothing against him, of course, but I just wanted to... I seeked out a different guitar teacher because I felt like I wasn't getting the education I wanted with the first one. I was getting consistent practice, which was a good first step, but I wanted a more disciplined sort of curriculum. And I'm learning from like teachers now. It's like you tell them what you want to learn, and they help you develop a curriculum. It's just the second teacher I got is better at the second half of that than the first one. He was still willing to teach me stuff, but like he wasn't as receptive as this new teacher I got. So I'm happy I swapped. But something I've been trying to work on lately is get better at identifying where notes are on my fretboard. Because the first teacher I had, he wanted to, like, because this was a good thing I wanted to learn about. He was teaching me how to learn to read because I come from a bass instruments. I come from the lower half of the staff. I didn't play on both because I was a baritone. So I only ever learned how to read bass clef. For the 6 years I was in high school, I never learned how to read treble clef. I never tried. So this is a gap in my knowledge I wanted to cover, because I wanted to play piano and guitar, and both require you to be able to read treble clef. Guitar technically can play in both ranges. Technically, guitar is notated in both ranges. It plays in one, because to my knowledge, guitar, standard 6-string, standard tuning guitar, is actually notated an octave down. It plays like super high in the treble staff. It never actually goes down to the lower parts, but it's notated an octave down for ease of reading, I assume. So you're never actually playing on the bass clef, but it's notated an octave down. So if you're reading it the way it's notated, you do occasionally dip down into the bass clef. Like you dip pretty far down into it. So I wanted to learn how to read both staffs. So my guitar teacher's like, okay, we'll start you off with this book that teaches you how to read. Like, you'll learn your basic E to E scale on the first 6 strings. You'll go from like 2 or 3 notes a string, and you'll learn how to do a scale that way. But these songs that taught me the positions, like, good things I learned about doing this early. I learned the first half of treble clef. I can read the first half of the treble clef fairly easily from top down. I can't read the bottom half, but also I really read it more as like a position on my fretboard and intervals away from each other. I'm not reading it immediately as notes. Those first 2 skills aren't bad skills to have, don't get me wrong. Learning the difference between intervals and music, being able to hear them and being able to like do them in real time is a very powerful skill, don't get me wrong. But what I was really interested in was being able to look at a fret on my fretboard and say, okay, that's this note. Be able to look at a note on a treble clef staff and say, okay, that is a C, and be able to tie the two together. And I feel like I was only getting half of that because I wasn't actively being challenged to say, okay, what's that note on the treble clef staff? And again, it's a small minor nitpick, but I was trying to voice this to my teacher, but I don't feel like I was getting the most receptive responses to that. The teacher I swapped to is helping me more with stuff along that line, so I'm happy about that. And I know it's a very particular thing to want, but like, I want to be able to sight read both staffs effectively. I can still do that on bass staff. I can't do that on treble yet, but I'm getting better. Let me back... I'm gonna back out of this game, but I want something to have up on here because I'm gonna get to the writing portion of stream. Uh, can I stream music? I've seen people listen to music on streams before. I'm not sure if I can do that because I want to listen to music while I write. Let me see. What would be a good Steam game to have up in the background? Something we can just watch loop in the background while I play. It's like a ant farm. Not a lot, honestly. I could go hop on the Minecraft server I usually play on and AFK. I'm not sure how cool my friend is with me doing that, but it's not a bad place to AFK. It's good as any other. Oh yes, I want to play this game so bad. That's on the itinerary for tonight. I've been streaming for how long? 2 hours? Hour 18? Okay, I'm doing good on time. I think what I'm looking for right now is like a chill game I can have running in the background that isn't really time based. Like something with the vibes of like Stardew Valley that I can just leave running and then not have to worry about the flow of time on it all. Um, Blotcher would be a funny one. I don't think I'd ever get sick of hearing the Blotcher theme, but I'm trying to find something not too musical because I really want to listen to my own music. Hmm. Maybe I'm also just worrying too much about the stream itself because there's nobody here. It's just me. I can do whatever I want. I have no one to entertain. This is for me and no one else. Yeah. Yeah, maybe we won't put anything up here. What's on that? Universal War Room. That's fine. Alrighty, let's see. Where's my writing at? So as I mentioned before, I'm doing some writing. And I think I've made decent progress so far. Let me put this on the right side, this on the left side. Oh, but that makes it harder to read because it's formatted weird. I need a third monitor. Wait, what if we do it top and bottom? Wait, no. Can I do that? I mean, I can just do it manually. Oh, wait, kinda? Yeah, kinda. Alrighty. Fantastic. Screen resizing my beloved. I might hop off here soon to hang out with Vinny for a little bit, but I do want to get some work done first. As I said, I've been feeling less fulfilled by non-artistic endeavors lately, so if that's the way I feel fulfilled, that's what I want to focus on doing. I never finished that sketch for Risk of Rain, and I want to get back and finish it, but I have a few other things I want to get done first. Something I need to do is clean up my room. It's been getting a bit messy. I have some doctor's appointments I need to get scheduled. I got a few done first, which is good, and I need to get my room in order. I also want to figure out my fashion. But for now, something I can do in the dead of night that I've been trying to work on for a while, I want to finish writing this video. I mentioned it before, but I'm working on informative essay for hack and slashes. I find them very fascinating. I want to learn more about them. So, what I'm working on currently is writing a video that asks a few primary questions, answers them, and the topic is hack and slashes. Let's take a look at what I've got so far. What is common elements, examples of, and then my personal experience with them. The games I've got so far: Kingdom Hearts, Hi-Fi, Hades, MGRR, DMC, DMC3, DMC4. I have a big old question mark, question mark, question mark on DMC4 because what I'm trying to focus on is something that each of these games brings that's unique. So I have a few notable examples for hack and slashes so far. I have Kingdom Hearts. Uh, One of the defining games of the genre of hack and slashes. Kingdom Hearts integrates RPG elements with the traditional hack and slash mechanics. So think like party management, leveling, grinding, item management, like in the way that you manage items for party members, accessories, equipment, that sort of thing. All those RPG elements. It's like if you took Final Fantasy and mixed it with a hack and slash, which, considering it came from Square Enix, the inspiration makes sense. They literally have half the characters be Disney, the other half are Final Fantasy, so it's not surprising that it goes for those RPG Final Fantasy-esque elements. That's what that brings that's unique to the table. On the other side, on the same year, like the same year or two that Kingdom Hearts released, we got DMC. DMC is another entry into the hack and slash series. As I say, I'm pretty sure these two were like the defining games of the franchise. I I've been trying to figure out if there's any games that came before them, but they came out very early in gaming in general. They came out in the early 2000s, and some of the earliest video games I think came out in like the 80s. So across that span of 20 years, I don't think I found any other hack and slashes because I think the genre that predated hack and slashes, which was the closest related, was a beat 'em up, and then hack and slashes were like a subgenre of those, and it became their own thing, kind of like how you have roguelites, which are like roguelikes, but even further removed, like even further removed than that. Which is another interesting which brings us on to one of the next entries on the list. I didn't talk about DMC, but I'll get to that soon. Uh, Hades integrates roguelite elements with hack and slash gameplay. Like the thing is, I'm gonna say with hack and slash gameplay at the end of all this, but the thing is, each one of these games I've picked them because they're games I've played, they're games I've experienced with, but they all bring something unique to the table that sets them apart in the franchise. It's what makes them each worth your time instead of playing one and saying I've played them all, you know? So we have Kingdom Hearts, Hi-Fi, Hades, MGR, and then each DMC game. Because DMC, like the Half-Life series and the TF2, to a lesser extent, I won't say they're as revolutionary as those games. I cannot make that judgment. I've not played each of those games to be that foresightable, and I've heard so much hype about how much each Half-Life game revolutionized gaming as an industry, as a field. But if I could start with the first DMC game, it, like Kingdom Hearts, were like some of the earliest defining games of the franchise, as Rogue was to roguelikes, if to a lesser extent, because the hack and slash franchise isn't named after them, but or genre, not franchise. What DMC did though, it focused more on flashy combat. Kingdom Hearts had its fair share of flashy combat, but DMC leaned hardest into flashy, satisfying to execute combat and combos, and it pioneered a unique style ranking system to emphasize this. Because Kingdom Hearts has combos, but it doesn't have a combo tracker. It focuses more on unique interactions and boss fights and the way you manage your resources in those boss fights, kind of like an RPG. But DMC focuses less on managing your resources and more on technical prowess and flashy abilities that reflect that technical prowess. And it has a unique style ranking system that gives you real-time feedback on how well you're styling on the enemy. And this is something I really appreciated about DMC is it's similar. Like it inspired so many other games with this mechanic, and I can't say it is the first game to ever do this. But as far as I've been able to wait, actually, which came out first, DMC or um Smash Bros? What? Actually, I probably 1999. The original Super Smash Bros. Came out in 1999. DMC one came out in like 2003, I think 2001. So there's a 2-year gap, but now I'm trying to figure out what the name for the mechanic is. I'm trying to find the name for the mechanic, but there's like a mechanic in Super Smash Bros. Which is featured. It's a similar mechanic that you encounter in DMC, and I'm trying to find out the name for it in Smash Bros. But that'd be a funny lack of context. But maybe don't leave this one hanging up. We'll do Valheim. Okay. Sorry, I have to manage all my other tabs because since I tab through stuff on stream, you guys can see that, and I have to make sure that you don't see anything less than savory. Not saying I have any skeletons in my closet, but I literally have skeletons in my closet. That's not a joke. I'm looking at one of them right now. Well, I can't see him. He's behind the door, but there's 2 skeletons in my closet. Ah, that's so funny. I love being able to say that. I don't know if it was in Smash Bros. 1, and I don't know the name of the mechanic, so I'm trying to find it out. If Ari were awake right now, I could ask them because they know about it better than I do. But there's a mechanic in Super Smash Bros. In at least Ultimate I know of, where spamming an ability results in diminishing returns. Like the stun you put enemies into and the amount of damage you deal gets lower and lower each time you spam it. It's to prevent move spam, but in DMC it's to encourage engaging with the style system. Like there's nothing flashy about spamming the same move over and over, but comboing people with multiple weapons, multiple different attacks in different unique and exciting ways results in a quicker acquisition of style, higher overall style totals, and to my knowledge, the style system directly impacts or at least reflects how effective your moves are on the enemy and makes your attacks actually do different things. I couldn't find an exact source to back this up, but from personal experience, it seemed like your attacks had bigger range of influence and did more damage. At the very least, did more damage when you utilized higher starter rankings in the original DMC. Oh, hey, Ari's up. Oh, cool. They're talking about apparently what I'm talking about is stale moves, and they're trying to contact me because I'm awake. Fantastic. Now I've got to find out if stale moves were in the original. As I said, Ari knows that stuff off the top of their head. Let's see. Super Smash Bros. Stale moves. When was that added? It's in Smash Bros. 4. Was it? It's in all games in the Super Smash Bros. Series, I think. Cool. Now I'm curious where that particular mechanic comes from. Because I know it's featured in DMC, but as I said, I don't think they're the first people to integrate it, because I'm pretty sure that Smash Bros. Is older than DMC is. I know the style system was pioneered in DMC, but I don't know about the stale mechanic, which is it's a component of the overall style system. According to my sources, Ari being the source, stale moves have been in since the first Smash Bros. Game, which is 2 years before DMC. Which is very interesting because I like it so much because, like, all the games that came out in that early 2000s era influenced each other so much. Like, Kingdom Hearts took from DMC as DMC took from Kingdom Hearts. They iterated on each other to make better and more exhilarating games. And I think this is part of why I like Hi-Fi Rush so much, because of all the games I've talked about so far, Hi-Fi Rush has the most integration from previous games in all the franchises. It's like Hi-Fi Rush was made by somebody who loved this genre growing up and said, how can I take all of the favorite games that define my childhood and put them together with a rhythm game? Because the more I played through DMC 1 through 4, I found that a lot of the mechanics directly influenced most of the moves in Hi-Fi Rush. Like, I thought the Magnet was unique to Hi-Fi Rush, but apparently that was a thing in DMC 4. It probably came before DMC 4 did too, but it's the DMC 4 is the first game I found that has that. I think it's called Buster in DMC 4. That's just the name for your hand that you use, and there's like a name for the grab in particular, but it lets you close the distance with enemies. If they're light enemies, you pull them to you. If they're heavy enemies, you pull yourself to them. That sort of nuance doesn't exist in Hi-Fi Rush, but the concept of using a magnet arm to pull yourself to the enemy is. And that is also used for terrain, like platforming in the game often. And that is also a feature of DMC4, which I think is fascinating. The style system from Hi-Fi Rush is there. The aerial combos are extremely reminiscent, if not directly pulled from Kingdom Hearts. Like, the combat itself, it feels like it pulls equal parts Kingdom Hearts, equal parts DMC. If there's a third influence there, I can't identify it because I haven't played that many hack and slashes yet. But Hades is also a unique entry into this list because Hades has roguelike elements, and this is the first hack and slash I think that has roguelike elements. Like, Cult of the Lamb is very close to hitting that hack and slash vibe, but it's only there in vibe. It's not there in practice because, like, it has similar combos and move sets, but it doesn't have. It also has similar progression, but it doesn't have a very. What am I trying to say? It doesn't have as developed as a combat system to justify an entry into the hack and slash genre. And it also doesn't have a similar. This is another component that I've noticed in all these games, a similar currency slash point based currency is the best way I can call it, a currency based acquisition of skills, because all these games like feature different ways to level up and progress the strength of your character, but that is separate entirely because those are usually planned scalings and power over the course of the game, and depending on how much you decide to interact with the game's hidden resources and puzzles and extra bits of content and side quests allow you to progress it faster, a way of grinding and a way to get immediate reward and make later fights easier. It also has a completely detached from that, and sometimes integrated, but usually detached, separate, like at least identifiably a standalone way of powering up the skills of your character that is like what I refer to as like a currency based system or a shop, if you will, because they're usually presented as shops, but they're not always. Because in Devil May Cry, it's through time statues, but in most of these games, it's a shop. Hi-Fi Rush, it's a shop. Kingdom Hearts, it's actually not a shop. Um, Hades, it's a shop, and MGRR, it's a shop, and Hi-Fi Rush, it's a shop. But in these games, you get like, and DMC broke it down into two separate forms of currency. In the first game, it was one form of currency. I appreciate that they broke it down into two. But the way you increase your move set is most identifiably done with a form of currency you get in game that allows you to expand your kit. And the reason why I say Cult of the Lamb is almost there is because Cult of the Lamb doesn't let you change. It doesn't let you add to your kit necessarily. It lets you change it, but it's just not fleshed out enough for me to call it. Like, if Cult of the Lamb just refined, like, it's not refined is even the right word for it. If they expanded on their combat system like 20 or 50% more than they have in it, made it just that much deeper, I would say that it would actually classify as a hack and slash. Maybe an isometric one, kind of like Hades, but it would still be an entry into the series. But I can't say it is because it's just Cult of the Lamb dips into it, but it doesn't fully explore it. it does explore like base building, tycoonish like simulator. It's like town simulator type game. I don't know the name for that, but it doesn't fully engage with combat enough to be an entry into hack and slash, in my opinion. Maybe if I do some deeper observation on that, I can come to a more rational decision on that. That's like I've been half and half on putting Cult of Lamb on this list because it might even be worth just as an entry into what like is towing the line between a hack and slash and not, because it has a lot of the similar elements, but I don't think it has enough to genuinely qualify as an entry in the series. It might, because it's almost to the same level of hack and slash that Hades is. Hades just has more to it. Hades has more to the weapons and interacting with your kits that allows it to be a proper entry in the series. Ari has a lot of opinions on this. I would love to discuss it more with them in real time, but they have work soon, and that is just tragic. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put Cult of the Lamb on this list now. I think that is worth talking about. This is part of what I want to make this video so much, though, is because this like video games really fascinate me, and this is a topic I've been like really interested in by for a while now, and it's something I really want to make a video about. I think it'd be fun to discuss about with other people, and if no one else, at least myself. The script writing is coming along great too. I think the biggest things I'm going to struggle with for this are like I learned about this in speech class in college, but like there's a few different moving parts to communicating with your audience when you're giving an informative essay, and one of them is the way that you present your body language. This is something I see a lot of like animating YouTubers do during story time animations, or sometimes informative essays like I did. A huge inspiration for this is actually Circle Tunes. If you haven't checked out his longer form videos, I highly recommend you do. They're some of his highest quality products, and I can tell he's just proud of the stuff he does in those, and I personally find them very interesting. He does a good job of explaining his thoughts on topics and being informative about them and doing his research and doing it in a way that is engaging and fun to watch. But something I think I'm going to struggle with is finding a way to effectively substitute for, because like all these people like usually have like OCs or characters and that they'll have drawn by other people, or they'll draw it themselves, or they'll just actually like record a few like kind of like what MatPat did. He got a couple JPEGs of himself and then hand animate them in Photoshop, or they'll maybe actually record themselves talking to the camera in front of a green screen. I don't feel comfortable doing the latter there or the second to latter there. So the first most option seems like my best avenue there, but I kind of suck in that department. So figuring that out is going to be an interesting challenge to overcome. But so far, for the script writing, the film collecting, and the editing, I've been having a blast doing all of that. I'll have more editing to do once I collect some more footage for this, which also means I'm probably going to have to set aside a few more days to stream, because if I'm putting Cult of the Lamb into this, I should stream some Cult of the Lamb, and maybe I'll do a new run on Cult of the Lamb. I'm not happy with how my last run ended. I sacrificed Ratu, which I would still wish I could take back. And I want to play through the game again. So I think I'll do another playthrough on Cult of the Lamb. So Cult of the Lamb at the very least. I need some footage for MGRR, so maybe I'll show you guys me doing a standard run and just trying to speed run it. And then I'm definitely going to do some Hades. So like maybe I'll just have like a weekend where I do like a couple hours of a hack and slash stream every day where I play 1 or 2 games for an hour, and then I use that footage. Cut it down. I know I have plenty of DMC 1 and DMC 3. Wait, no, I don't think I. No, I didn't do DMC 1 on stream, did I? I did DMC 3 and DMC 4. Okay, I'm gonna have to do DMC 1 then. Not against though, because it's a pretty solid start in the series. Alrighty, I will come back and get some more writing done in just a moment, because I have typed down a few things, a few of my thoughts that I've come to during this chat, but I have to use the bathroom, and I'm also going to go chat with Ari before they leave for work. So, BRB. Wait, cancel. Oh, I love how scuffed everything on here is because I don't need it to be anything more. Fantastic. All right, BRB. Alrighty, I'm back. I had a good chat with my partner. They helped clarify some things about the game I mentioned earlier, Smash Bros. And now I'm gonna spend like I'm gonna shoot a DM to my brother. He's playing League right now, and I wouldn't mind playing a game or two with him. So I'm gonna just text him, say, "Hey, if you want to play League, I'm down to join you whenever your game is over. Just let me know when it is." I'm trying to leave it open invite because I know sometimes he likes to play with me, sometimes he doesn't. So I'm not trying to force his opinion one way or the other. But let's see, where were we? Oh, yeah, Kingdom Hearts. Hack and slashes. I gotcha. So something I was debating with my partner is that, and I was just talking about on stream, is Cult of the Lamb an entry into the series? I think this is the part where I have to start doing research. I'm trying to come to a conclusion based on my own thoughts. I'm trying not to look up the answer to this. I want to be able to make my infer from the information I have my own educated guess, and then consult other sources and see how they line up with my personal views, but also my actual like not just based on feelings, like because like vibes are a part of it, but also like what does it actually have that constitutes this genre? Let's take a closer look. All right, so Wikipedia defines it as in arcade and console style action video games. The term refers to action games that focus on real time combat with hand to hand weapons as opposed to guns and fists. Now, this is the interesting thing is that loose description can describe so many different types of video games. So I think you need to narrow it down a bit more because if I take a look over here, action roguelike, but it's not described as a hack and slash. Now, this is the interesting thing. It specifies action. I'm noticing in here that this describes Devil May Cry as a character action game. So is because that this describing that as a subgenre of hack and slashes. So is the type of game I'm describing right now really a hack and slash? I mean, really a subgenre of a bigger genre that I'm not observing properly. The subgenre that modernized the hack and slash is sometimes known as character action game, and represents a modern evolution of traditional arcade action hack and slash games. The subgenre of games was largely initiated and defined by Hideki Kamiya, creator of the first Devil May Cry, Okami, and Bayonetta. In turn, Devil May Cry was influenced by earlier hack and slash games, including Onimusha Warlords. Interesting. What's that? 2001, but Devil May Cry released in 2001. If they both released in 2001, how did one influence the other? Is that narrow window of release really enough for one to influence the other? One was released late 2001, one was released early 2001. So one likely to started development like a year earlier than the other. Is that enough time for it to influence it, I wonder? Now, see, this definitely sounds like it inspired Devil May Cry because it says the game balances action elements with puzzles that involve interacting with environments and obtaining items to make progress. That is Devil May Cry to a T. Interacting with the environment and obtaining items to progress through the game. That is absolutely what Devil May Cry is. The player begins the game with a standard weapon and can obtain long-range weapons with limited supply. That sounds like MGRR. MGRR has a lot of long-range weapons that you can get, like rocket launchers and grenades, but you only get so many of them. You get a small amount of them at times. You gain 3 elemental weapons, with each with an elemental magical attack. Sounds a lot like Devil May Cry as well. Their weapons are themed after different elements. Oh, and you can get different types of souls that are absorbed by the character. Red souls act as a currency. Yellow souls recover health. Blue souls recover magic power. Yep, that is also Devil May Cry. Red souls are your currency in Devil May Cry. White souls recover power, I think. And then no. Red, green recovers health. Blue recovers power. Red recovers currency. But these aren't unique to the hack and slash genre. These came from beat 'em ups, I believe, right? Because beat 'em ups had that side scrolling, you beat up enemies, and then occasionally an enemy will drop a green orb and you pick that up for health, right? So that is just basic video game, action game design. Let's see. What was an action role-playing game? They emphasize real-time combat that challenges the player's physical coordination and reaction time as opposed to turn or menu-based. Yeah, okay, so combat in real time. Yeah, I gotcha. That's not just Kingdom Hearts. That's not just hack and slashes, but it's similar. In that case, you could call League of Legends and Valorant action role-playing games. Well, just off that first half of the description, I'm sure there's a second half. These games often use action and combat systems similar to hack and slash or shooter games. They differ from action role-playing games and action adventure games differ from the former, include role-playing game mechanics that like player-driven character creation. Gotcha. Decision making regarding player character development, skill trees, or direct control over customizable team of character called a party. So Kingdom Hearts would be a subgenre of the action role-playing game, like ARPG mixed with hack and slash. Fascinating. Kingdom Hearts, released in 2002 for the PlayStation 2, continued the trend of character action or hack and slash role-playing games. Yeah. Oh, those are some sick cosplays. Okay, I'm getting a bit off the rails here, so I'm going to reel myself back in and focus on what I'm working on. Let's see. I'll take out that BRB and no, don't save. Let me actually save this file real quick. Save it to my desktop and name it hack and slash whip. Alrighty. So I've worked in less than 12 hours. I'm probably not going to be sleeping before then. I might get a few hours of sleep in, but I have some chores I need to do today too. So I'm probably going to continue doing this for another half hour. Then when Vinny wants to hang out, I'll hang out with him for a couple hours, and then I'll get some chores done, and then I'll have time to do whatever I want after that for like a few hours before work. So what I'm going to start with here is this. Okay, let's see. So what do these games do different? I don't know what DMC4 does. It really just like I can't make a call on that yet. I have thoughts, but I need to work on the stuff I know. Let's start with okay. Hi-Fi Rush integrates rhythm game mechanics with hack and slash gameplay. Notably, takes inspiration from Kingdom Hearts 1 and DMC. We'll just like X-nay Kingdom Hearts 1 and add just DMC. That's another thing I just realized. Wait a minute. Hold on. I barely played any of Kingdom Hearts 2. But did Kingdom Hearts 2 put devil triggers in the game? Okay, now, bear with me for a second. Devil triggers are not nearly unique to Devil May Cry, to my knowledge. Like, they are one of the most notable examples of it I can recall in recent memory. But I've played a lot of games where a lot of games will feature a special meter. And what they do with this meter differs. But in most games, like in these action games, you'll have like when you're fighting in real time with enemies and you have different combos and stuff, you'll have what's known as a special meter. It is a meter that is filled with a resource that when full will allow you to either use a special move or special form. Like the rage meter from God of War is a great example. And the way that this meter is filled in most of these games is primarily by taking damage and dealing damage. And then it can fill faster depending on if you do technically skilled things, like getting near misses, dodging abilities right in the nick of time, taunting enemies, hitting really long combos, hitting parries and stuff. That typically fills this meter faster. And when the meter is full, or when it reaches a charge on the meter bar, and you can hold multiple charges, you can use it to get a bonus to your combat stats. A great example of this, the best two examples I can probably give you are Devil May Cry and God of War. In both these games, when you use that rage meter, you unlock new abilities, your abilities get faster, they do more damage, and you also heal over the duration of that ability. It's a very powerful tool in your kit, and using it at the right times is key to changing the tide of battle in your favor. A great example of this would be in DMC 3. Because in DMC 3, I don't know if it did in DMC 1 because I didn't use it nearly enough, and I can't recall. But in DMC 3, this because in DMC 3, this ability gives you massive health regen. It makes you take less damage, or at the very least, it seemed like it did because your health was regenerating so quickly. It may have made it just look like the abilities were dealing less damage, but it felt like it was doing a lot less damage. And it made you deal more damage and made you attack quicker. But the thing is, attacking quicker wasn't just a DPS bonus. There are some enemies where you could only execute certain combos on them if you're attacking quicker thanks to your Devil Trigger. Because in Devil May Cry 3, the way stagger worked on enemies, it didn't affect all of them the same, and it was a thing you just had to learn through trial and error. A lot of the time, you were only able to execute a full combo on enemies in a short bit of end lag from their combos that you dodge if you had your Devil Trigger up. Otherwise, you'd only be able to execute the first half of a combo and you'd have to back out. A great example of this would be the fight I did with Virgil in Devil May Cry 3. In Devil May Cry 3, the Virgil fight, you absolutely have to know how to use your Devil Trigger effectively, and you also have to know your kit as well as you know Virgil. So you have to know, okay, when can you attack him, and when is he going to be able to attack you back, so you know when to back up. How fast does your character move? How good are you at dodging? And most importantly, are you effectively using your Devil Trigger? Because the thing I love about Virgil's fight in Devil May Cry 3 is he has a Devil Trigger too. He's the only enemy in the entire game that also has a Devil Trigger. And because it's one of the most powerful abilities in the entire game, it makes him one of the most formidable enemies in the entire game. Virgil wouldn't be nearly as terrifying if he didn't have a Devil Trigger, because like most bosses, you could just play War of Attrition. You could out-sustain him by delaying combat, building up your Devil Trigger from a safe distance with either your guns or by hitting taunts at the correct time and stacking your Devil Trigger consistently to regen your health and up your DPS. That's not an option to Virgil. You have to be better at Devil Triggering than him, and you can't rely on it as a crutch because he will use his as well. I didn't learn that the first 3 times I fought him. Like, I don't think I picked it up until I was halfway through Virgil Fight 2, and I realized, oh, he's recovering his health. How is he doing that? And I pieced it together. His Devil Trigger does for him exactly what it does for me. It's not an edge I have over him. It's a way I get to even the playing field, and I love that. It made him such a dynamic enemy to fight, having to predict when his Devil Trigger was about to come back up, how to fight around it effectively, because another thing I loved about it, it was terrifying. Virgil's Devil Trigger also made him faster. So if you didn't match him with your Devil Trigger, if you didn't hit like a Devil Trigger stalemate, you had to pray you were good at defending from his combos, because you didn't. If you got hit by a single full combo of him, it would easily half health you. And I love that. And I was playing on the basic difficulty. If I was playing on the hardest difficulty, getting hit by Virgil at all in his Devil Trigger state would probably lead to you getting Touch of Death. Now that I think about it, Kingdom Hearts 1 didn't have a meter like that. They had a magic meter, but you interacted with it differently. You interacted in it in the way more of a magic or a resource meter in Final Fantasy, which again, there's that crossover. That's the inspiration from Square Enix's side of the gameplay. They also had a summon meter, which kind of acted like, it's kind of like if you broke down your special meter into two different meters, a summon meter and then a magic meter, but that's harder to, I haven't played Kingdom Hearts 1 in so long. I don't remember what the summons were like, so I'd have to play more to remember, but Kingdom Hearts 1 did not have a true special meter like that. And that's more of a feature of action games than hack and slashes in particular. I don't think that's a core component of hack and slashes, because Hades featured a similar bar, but I think that's more inspirations from them being action games instead of hack and slashes. So it's definitely something to think about, but I don't think it's a core pillar of what a hack and slash is. I don't think you need it to make your game a hack and slash, but it helps. It helps deep. It adds depth to the combat, because I feel like a hack and slash needs a certain level of depth to the combat to constitute a hack and slash. Otherwise, it leads more into beat 'em up territory. And this is a nice way to loop back to Cult of the Lamb. Cult of the Lamb isn't even labeled a hack and slash in here, but it is labeled an action roguelike. In fact, is Hades labeled an action roguelike? Because I believe Hades is also labeled, or at least when I looked at it initially, it was labeled initially as a hack and slash. It is. It's an action roguelike hack and slash. Now, that action roguelike part is what gets me, because Cult of the Lamb looks similar to this. It has a similar isometric type of combat, where it's like a top-down view. Most of the game is top-down, and it's not all action, so I can't call it. It's not that it has to engage with the hack and slash thing 100% of the time. Hades doesn't do this either, but Hades has more depth to the combat system than Cult of the Lamb does. And I feel like Cult of the Lamb is just teetering on the edge of having enough combat to constitute being a hack and slash. So this is part of where I run into the issue of, how do I quantify it? Is it in the realm of hack and slash or not? And that's where I feel like vibes kind of come into play. The combat has to feel like that chunky hacking and slashing feeling, so to speak. Like, you have to feel like this is part of why the melee weapons are extremely important. It's not always melee. Hell, one of the primary weapons in this game isn't even a melee weapon, it's a gun. But it still has to have that vibe, of like, because if it doesn't, it leans closer to being a third-person shooter like Fortnite, and you wouldn't call that a hack and slash, but that's part of where like the vibes of it come into, and I need to find a better way to define it than just vibes. Let's see. But I guess isn't that how Soulsborne versus Souls-likes are defined? Like, Soulsborne are like games that are actually from the Souls franchise, or at least their creator, but Souls-likes and then Souls something else is like, one of them is like they have the same aspects and vibes. One of them is they have the same aspects but not the same vibes. So we have roguelike, action roguelike, hack and slash, but then we have action roguelike, cult, base building. That's one of the differences. But like, if I go over here, and you can see the inspiration from Hades as well. Like, it's got similar bullet hell aspects in the isometric combat that not a lot of hack and slashes have. Like, is there a good example for this from the other games? Kingdom Hearts kind of has the bullet hell vibes, A game that doesn't have the bullet hell vibes would probably be MGRR. It kind of does in some fights, but it's not really a big aspect of it, throwing projectiles at you. DMC has some projectiles thrown at you in there from time to time. I think Kingdom Hearts and Hades lean the hardest into that. Hi-Fi Rush definitely doesn't have that many projectiles that come at you either. Alrighty, so this has been like good ruminating, but I think I need to like I've done good brainstorming. Now if I'm falling to Double Diamond, I have to it's a helpful guide for me at least. I need to narrow in. So let's think about it for a second. Accidentally full screened. Let me pull that back up. So, Cult of Lamb, possible entry in the series, interacts nearly enough with the similar isometric style combat to see in Hades as to be considered a possible entry in the list. Now, I have this broken into a games list. Let's indent each different section. So we'll indent games list, and then we indented script. And now let's do elements. Now, if I wanted to be a proper, like, full-on research into this, I would probably start further up on the tree, but I feel like it's getting too lost in the weeds, so to speak. Like, I don't think I need to know to a T what an action game is to be able to say what a hack and slash is. I feel like that's getting too sidetracked. So I'm going to start with trying to define what a hack and slash is. If I need to go up, I will, but we're going to start here. So what are some elements of a hack and slash, right? We'll start with the ones I was talking about earlier in the stream. Shop, I'll quotes that. System. Shop system for upgrading, diversifying abilities / kit. E.g. Hades mirror. Wait a minute. With the Hades mirror, that is darkness. But that would be the Hades mirror. Okay, Hades mirror. I need a comma. Oh, here we go. Comma on my keyboard doesn't work. I need to get that fixed. Or just get a new keyboard. Hades mirror. MGRR shop. Cult of the Lamb. Devotion / temple shop. And I gotta remember there's a secondary one. We just linear progression of skills. Identifiably separate from quote shop. So before I finish defining that, let me get a couple more examples down here. So like we have our Hades mirror, we have MGRR shop, Cult of the Lamb devotion temple / shop. What are some other examples? Let's start with the other games. Kingdom Hearts. It wouldn't be abilities. It would be fabrication. Kingdom Hearts fabrication. slash shops. Because Kingdom Hearts, they're actually just shops. Shop sounds so weird now I'm saying it so much. I have to double check to make sure it's a real word. Okay, yes. Just making sure it's actually a real word. You know what? Let's listen to some music while I do this. I mentioned it earlier, but I've been getting way into oh, Ari was calling me on my phone. No, I feel so bad. They said they were spam calling me in Discord. I didn't realize they're calling my actual phone. Wait, Fantasy Star Online. Wait, that's familiar. I think Deku named not Deku. Is his name Deku? Let me actually check real quick.
Yeah.
But I think because that's the name of the. Let me just make sure. Actually, I know how to find him. It was Yami who collabed with Deco, not Deku, Deco. I think Deco like had a song named after that, right? Deco Fantasy Star Online. Yeah, he had a song named after that. That's hilarious. So definitely some inspiration there. Sorry, I got distracted. I mentioned I was getting way too into 21 Pilots lately, and I'm gonna listen to their Clancy album. You might be able to hear it, you might not. It'll probably be a firm maybe like sometimes, but let's keep writing. You're definitely gonna hear me sing along to this one, by the way. I've been wanting to sing the lyrics of this one for a while, so actually we're gonna take a quick break to do that. The Clancy album's been one of my favorites to listen to lately. It's also one of their most recent. Dang. As Vinny said, their other albums have good bangers, and it's like, but their albums that like where the songs all went plat don't do it for me. Clancy is by far my favorite out of all of them consistently. The Trench. Welcome back to Trench. You're gonna hear some really bad singing for the next couple minutes, but I like singing, so deal with it. It gets better every time I do it too. Wait, what? Wait, what? Earn my stripes, 300 tracks in my Adidas track jacket. Bless your ear holes while you react, acting gobsmacked. Don't hesitate to maybe overcompensate. I feel like I was just here, same twitching in my eyes. Don't sleep on a boy who can't fall asleep twice in the same night and won't hesitate to maybe overcompensate. I fly by the dangerous bend symbol. Don't hesitate to maybe overcompensate. By the time I catch in my peripheral, don't hesitate to maybe overcompensate. Where I'm from, I was born right here just now, originated right in front of your eyes. If you can't see, I am Clancy, prodigal son, done running, came up with Josh done, wanted dead or alive. So now you pick who you serve. You bow to the masses, get kicked to the curb for passing the classes. Half empty, half full, save half of your taxes and overtake your former self. Fly by the dangerous bend symbol. Don't hesitate to maybe overcompensate. By the time I catch in my peripheral, don't hesitate to maybe overcompensate. Days feel like a perfect length, I don't need them any longer. But for goodness sake, do the years seem way too short for my soul corazon? Way too short for my soul corazon. Days feel like a perfect length, I don't need them any longer. But for goodness sake, do the years seem way too short for my soul corazon? Way too short for my soul corazon. My stripes, 300 tracks in my Adidas strike shack. You bless your ear holes while you react, acting gobsmacked. Don't hesitate to maybe overcompensate. I said, I fly by the dangerous bend symbol. Don't hesitate to maybe overcompensate. But by the time I catch in my peripheral, don't hesitate to maybe overcompensate. Alrighty, that's the only one you're getting from me. Let's see. I immediately say as I play another song I'm going to want to sing along to, but I'll resist the urge for now. Honestly, it's probably better if I play something that doesn't have lyrics. If I do, I'm going to sing the entire time. Here we go. Rain, formerly known as Purple. One of my faves. Alrighty. Now that that's done, let's keep working. Okay, yeah, so let's go through the rest of the game, see if I can identify a, quote, shop from each one. DMC, time statue. DMC 1. I'm specifying 1 because DMC does something interesting here. I'll get into that in a bit. Let me actually put different systems for each game. DMC 1 through 2, no, through 3 through 4. Because the interesting thing that happens in DMC is they kind of don't have these shops separated, and this is to the game's detriment in the first game, in my opinion. And I think this is why they changed that, because I'll have to define what the second one is first for me to actually explain it better. But first, let's keep going through it. Hades, Mirror, Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush has gears. Peppermint Shop. Hi-Fi Rush has Pepper Shop. And is that all of them? We have Cult of the Lamb, which is, yep, MGR, Hades, Hi-Fi Rush, Kingdom Hearts, DMC 1, 2, 1, 3, 4. Okay, now here's the second part of how you upgrade your skills in hack and slash. Because you have the shop system, but then you have a linear progression of skills, which is sent to scale up with you over the course of the game at fixed points. And now this varies at some points in the game, and it depends on the game. It's on a game-by-game basis, and this is where there's more wiggle room. But typically, each game will feature this. An example of this I could give would probably be immediately. Okay, imagine it like this. Say you have a game, and over the course of the game, you're set to fight like 10 bosses. And you can use shops during each stage at fixed points and in between the stages, kind of like the mission systems for DMC. But then you have special collectibles you get guaranteed every so many bosses that permanently augment your kit. Whether it's giving you a new ability or an increase to your resource bars, the latter is the most consistent across all these games. increase your resource bar maximums. Kingdom Hearts will increase your resource bar over the course of the game, as will God of War. God, I'm going to have to put God of War on this list. So if I had to put God of War on this list, because I think I'm going to have to now, because that is another hack and slash. God of War has classic hack and slash mechanics in it. I think it's a good baseline for what they are, because this game doesn't redefine the genre. It leans into it, and it pushes the existing standards. It focuses on graphics, story, and solid gameplay. Again, like, it doesn't pull anything new or redefine this franchise. But what it does is it marked itself as a solid addition to the franchise. Not franchise. I keep saying franchise. I mean genre. It's a solid addition to the genre and pushes a whole bunch of currently existing standards for how good a hack and slash can be. Not what it can be, but how good it can be. It's like, it's just, it doesn't need to reinvent the wheel to be a good entry into the genre, right? And I think it is a good baseline, if nothing else, for what some classic mechanics in a hack and slash look like. I've already pulled up multiple examples from it before, and I'm going to pull up another one. In God of War, you could technically grind a bunch of enemies in one area. No, this is... And you could keep leveling your EXP. Something you won't get that is usually fixed. Again, games have a couple different ways of doing this. So it's not tied to a currency. In all these games, they're going to have collectibles in the environment that allow you to increase your resource bar. Again, the only exception to this, to my knowledge, is Kingdom Hearts. They have preset locations for where you're going to find collectibles. In God of War, this would be Eden Apples. Cult of the Lamb, this would be Heretic Hearts, so on and so forth. And basically, it's like, at certain parts of the game, there's sometimes diegetic reasons that explain why you get these boons. You're going to get, like, boons that will either increase your resource bars or expand on your kit in ways that a shop usually doesn't. Shops give you new abilities that build off of currently existing weapons. God, weapons are another one. I'm gonna have to explain. This is also why I need, wait. Unique weapons. Each with their own quirks, abilities, and usually unique upgrades in, quote, shops. Alrighty, I'm back. Sorry, my headset has this issue where sometimes if I move the cable weird, it disconnects me, and I need to fix that, but that's not my priority right now. Um, so another feature of hack and slash is commonly, this is something I also need to mention, like, this is the thing I like, so many moving parts in this genre of games tie into each other intuitively. And how well you do of tying those components together dictates how good of a game you'll make overall. But the genre is just well built from like an overarching perspective, and I really like that because these shops, what defines a shop from this other variant of shop, we need to find a name for it, but it's a linear progression of skill. Is usually the initial shop will add abilities and quirks to your weapons that you already have. Linear progression of skills will increase your resource bars and what weapons you have available. An example of this would be Devil May Cry. Devil May Cry has these fixed moments in the story where you'll increase your resource bar. You can increase it faster by doing side quests, but usually moments in the story that are narratively important, you'll increase resource bars, unlock new resource bars, and unlock new weapons which may have resource bars tied to them. An example would be first and third DMC games. They have unique weapons that you will get from every so many bosses. Notable bosses will give you new weapons. And an example of this would be in DMC3. If you check out my streams, like Cerberus drops a three-headed nunchuck. Electric Lady, don't remember her name. She wasn't important enough for me to care about, aside from the fact she dropped my favorite weapon in the game, which is an electric guitar. In the first DMC, you get Ifrit just from, I don't remember what you kill for it. I know you get, in the third game, Beowulf, you get his fists from defeating him. Well, technically, you don't actually. Actually, it baits and switches you. That's another subversion of hack and slash mechanics I like. Is in most of Devil May Cry 1 and the genre up until now, and in most of Devil May Cry 3 up until this point, the way the game works is like when you defeat a notable boss, you either take their weapon or get an unrelated weapon, but you just get a weapon for defeating a boss usually, right? A similar mechanic happens in Cult of Lamb, though not the exact same. But in Devil May Cry 3, when you beat Beowulf, you don't take his weapon. He runs away, and Virgil kills Beowulf and takes his weapon. And in that fight with Virgil, it's the only fight where he uses Beowulf. And it's so cool seeing the enemy. Like, this is part of why I like Virgil. He really feels like he's an equal and a worthy opponent. Because so many of the things a protagonist can do, the game dev said, what if we let the enemy do that too? You have a special meter? He has a special meter. You have weapons you pick up from killing enemies? Okay, we're going to let him pick up weapons from killing the enemies. You do get to use Beowulf's weapons, but you have to beat Virgil after he grabs them, which makes him terrifying to fight because now he's got a completely different moveset that he doesn't even use in the third fight. I love it. No? Why? Oh, wait, check the bedroom drawers. Sorry, so my partner keeps her clothes in drawers underneath of our bed, and those drawers, like, they're built into the bed frame, but a downside of this is they're open top. So if you get into those drawers and go underneath, you can get underneath the bed and a completely different section underneath the bed where all these drawers push into, which isn't a problem for anybody unless you're a cat. Because a cat sees the inside of those drawers when they're open and says, "Oh, comfy clothes, I'm going to lay on those." But then they can also crawl underneath the bed from the other side, which is terrifying. If you shut the door on them when they're crawling through, you could hurt them. But also, if you leave it open long enough, they'll crawl underneath the bed, and then you might forget about them and shut the door, and now they don't have a way out. And my partner does that quite frequently. It doesn't happen every day or even every week, but it's like once every month or every other month they'll shut the animals in there. And I feel so bad. That's just because my brother came in and said, "Hey, I haven't seen the cats in a while." I'm like, "Check underneath the bed, please." Um, but yeah, that's just me gushing more about. You know what? I'm gonna write that in Devil May Cry 3. Utilizes Virgil consistently as a foil to the player. Can do things the player typically can. Picks such as picks up enemy such as picking up enemy weapons, upgrading / developing kit, utilizes a special meter identical to the players. Oh, my cat wants in here. I'm going to let him in. You might hear some meowing for a bit. Also, BRB for a second, because I'm going to go talk to my brother. Hello? Oh, man. Alrighty, I'm back. Hello? Wait, let me see if I can hear myself. Hello? Hello? No, that sounds fine. YouTube Creator Studio's dumb. Alrighty. Let's see. Where was I? Oh yeah. So I'm gonna be writing for like another half hour to an hour. Then I'm gonna go get some chores done, hang out with Vinny, and play some Schedule One. So that'll be fun and chill. But that means I need to finish up here in a minute. So I'm gonna put on some music and get some good writing done. Then I'm gonna sign off. We'll put on some chill music by Luke Pickman. Alrighty. Let's see. Unique weapons, each with their own quirks, abilities, and usually unique upgrades and shops. That's a common one. I guess we can expand on that a little bit. E.g., Haiti or weapon unlocks from each boss in MG or a DMC3. That also correlates to the other one. Beowulf, E-guitar, electric sword. That was one. There was Beowulf, E-guitar, Cerberus, dual swords. Alrighty. Now, what would be some examples in Cult of the Lamb weapons? Cult of the Lamb. Devotion weapon unlocks. Examples for this would probably be sword, gun, axe, flail. Now, see, the difference between those is you don't unlock most weapons in Cult of the Lamb. You start with them, you unlock variants, like the ability for them to be cursed or blessed and stuff like that. But still, they technically count. Hades, Malphon, shield. I just know of Malphon, the Twin Fists, sword, bow, God of War. War, Blades of Chaos, axe, spear. I should probably stick to the one game, so Oh, and rage. Rage is technically its own weapon. My cats always dash in here like mad lads every time they get the chance, which, fair enough. This is a unique part of the house they don't frequently get to go into because it's always shut whenever I'm gone. When I am here, I only ever let Mio in here. I didn't let Mio in here at first because he would pee on my clothes sometimes, but he's gotten better about that, I think. At least not that I've noticed that he has issues with anymore. Sonny, though, is never allowed in here because he's always climbing up on top of stuff and knocking things over, which is a big no-no in my room because I have a lot of delicate stuff in here. I have a couple $1,000s worth of instruments, and more than a couple of those are fragile, so preferably not. Um, Also, I have open bottles of water on my desk, which I should probably keep closed, but I use those for watercolor painting. Let me add a couple more songs. There we go. That should be enough music for the rest of the hour. Alrighty. So we have unique weapons. Unique weapons, linear progression of skills. We need to expound on that one. I haven't described that one yet. Identically separate from shop. Usually increases to base stats, to base resources, or entirely new mechanics slash weapons introduced at fixed moments, e.g. boss fights. Can be occasionally all right. Sorry, I gotta adjust some numbers in my ledger now because Vinny paid me off a bit of what he owes me. Swear to God, the IRS is gonna think I'm laundering money because the main way that my brother pays me back is in cash. So I've acquired hundreds of dollars in cash from pays off of his debt that I've loaned him over the past year. Let's see. Alrighty. Linear progression of skills identically separate from shop usually increases to base resources or entirely mechanics slash weapons introduced at fixed moments, e.g. boss fights. Occasionally can be affected by side quests slash grinding. I say that I say that specification because that is often the draw that's often the line in the sand for the difference between this particular linear progression and the shop system, what sets them apart, but it's not a hard line. there's a little bit of blend between these two systems, and some games don't even keep them as separate systems, and I'm about to get into why that's an issue. The time statue from DMC, that's the primary way that I spelled it wrong, didn't I? Statue? Statue. The time statue from DMC does different things in each game. In DMC 1, it lets you purchase upgrades to your abilities, and it also lets you purchase consumable resources. And now these are different from the linear progression of skills, but no, this is a hard way to explain it. No, that's an entirely different issue. But the thing is that DMC 1 has you basically decide, do you want a consumable that'll make the fight easier, or do you want to get permanent upgrades to your skills? And that can feel like a bit of a bait trap for noobs in the game, because like most players, because in DMC you can technically replay missions and it'll affect your in-game currency, but it'll still be in the same concurrent playthrough. But most players aren't going to replay a mission 15 times to grind out easier enemies, and they're not usually going to loop through the same area 15 times to grind red orbs from the enemies that will respawn every time you walk through. So what this means is in any given run, there's usually an ideal amount of resource a player is going to generate playing through it organically, unless they intentionally decide to grind. If they identify that as a thing they can do and that will actually actively help them, there's a set amount of resources they'll typically gain. This is why this is why often games will divide it into two different types of resources. You'll have, and this is an example in Cult of the Lamb. In Cult of the Lamb, you will have gold and you'll have devotion. Gold is something you encounter in your runs that can be used for short-term boosts. Like it can give you health, it can give you tarot cards, which are buffs for your individual runs, but it does not do anything sometimes outside of combat. There are exceptions because it's a base building sim. Gold can be used out of combat, but a lot of times it won't be. But then you have devotion, which is used to upgrade your basic abilities. It can give you more health, it can make your weapon stronger, it can allow you to see higher level weapons, and it can also give your weapons different effects. This is unique to the way that Devil May Cry 1 did it, because Devil May Cry 1 gave you red orbs for defeating any enemy at all. And while it still gave you weapons at fixed rates and increases your resource bars at fixed rates, that can additionally sometimes be augmented by if you're willing to do side quests or find secrets and do that, like secret missions. Usually you acquire it at fixed rates, right? So you have your identified shop with one currency. But the problem is that this currency can be used to like buy vital stars. Vital stars will restore your health if you use them in combat, but they're only buffing you in the short term in a mission, and the game will even like lower your rank if you use items in it to beat it, because you're using it, you're giving yourself a handicap, basically. I think you're basically making this individual run easier than usual. And the game acknowledges that this is a lack of skill on your part, but the thing is, the punishment is the minus you get in rank system. That's what it should be. It gives you overall less red orbs for beating the level, and it gives you a lower rank. In this game, rank is usually everything, so that should be the punishment. But an unintended side effect of the fact that you share red orbs for these purchases and your ability purchases is that if you buy these items that'll make the game much easier in the short term, but only in the short term, you're crippling your abilities in the long term. In Devil May Cry 1, and so much of it focuses about being able to fluidly swap between different abilities, and some players do better with certain abilities than others due to personal preference or execution. This means that you're limiting your kit and what you're capable of severely in the long term if you use red orbs to purchase things that'll buff you for a level. Because it's already hurting your red orb gen because it's giving you a lower rank, but it's also actually costing a flat amount of orbs to purchase it in the first place. So what this means is that this is doubly punishing to the player, and they may not even notice until they're halfway through the run that using red orbs on consumables in the first place is a problem. They actually fix this in the third and fourth game because they separate the currencies you get in the games into two different currencies. You get red orbs and proud souls. One's for upgrading abilities, the other one is for consumables. It gives you the option to purchase consumables or a long-term health increase, which actually doesn't hurt your rank in the long term. I like that. I think that was a good decision, but it's still a uniquely different system than the linear progression. It's kind of broken it down into two shops, which I guess I could expound on, because a lot of the hack and slashes have that, but it's not a necessary feature of the games. It's an optional choice. I just thought it'd be good to mention because it was an issue that is encountered in Devil May Cry 1 and is encountered in a couple of the hack and slashes on the list, but there's a problem they end up fixing, and that's just good game design. I like to see it. What's up, Vinny?
I'm so tired of this psyop. No, I'm so tired of this psyop people have trying to convince me that putting grass into some water and warming it up a little bit is a good idea. I don't know who you are. I don't know I don't know who convinced you of this, right? But I have never once in my life liked drinking tea. I never will like drinking tea. You can't convince me that you stir in some lawn clippings into a glass of water and it's good.
Speaking of, could you make me some tea?
Are you done with this?
I can stop at any point if you want to do something.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Like, I've got a few more thoughts I want to type out real quick, but I can cut this short if you want to, like, do something.
Well,
Like, you want to do some schedule one?
We're short on time, yeah.
Okay. Well, you say short on time. Shift doesn't start for, like, 9 hours.
Yeah, we gotta do some chores too.
Yeah, but that'll take, like, 3 hours at most, I think.
Bro, you're procrastinating again. Doing it again. You're fretting, Midoriya.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I could tell where you're going with the tone in your voice. Grab that thing. He's gonna lick a hubcap, and that's not good for him.
It's not looking the hubcap. He keeps chewing on tape. It's a fixation he has.
Yeah. I like the way his paws stretch out when he tries to reach for something. You're confusing the poor thing. Don't do that. No.
Anyway, come on, we got chores to do.
Alrighty, take this thing with you. I'll wrap this up in 10 minutes. Okay, so I actually can tell you a little bit about this if you're actually genuinely interested. So the primary currency in Devil May Cry 1 is red orbs. It's dropped from enemies by beating them, and depending on how high of a rank you get on a mission, it gives you a flat amount at the end of a mission. What I was just talking about is the fact that red orbs are flawed majorly in Devil May Cry 1, and they fix this in 3 and 4, which I actually like. Because the thing is, you use red orbs to purchase upgrades to your kit at things called time statues. They're basically the hack and slash shops. But you can also use it to purchase consumables, like Vital Stars, which heal you, Holy Water, which will usually insta-kill most enemies in the map except for bosses. And that's what you can spend your red orbs on. But this actually is crippling to the player by game design, because what it means is you can either spend your money on long-term improvements to your kit, which will make boss fights easier and easier, because the game relies on you having a high style rank to do more damage and also combo effectively enemies. But you also use red orbs to purchase health increases and special resource bar increases, like your double trigger bar. But if you're using it in the short term to beat bosses by getting 1 or 2 health increases for a boss fight, it's a noob trap. It makes you burn all your red orbs, because on top of the fact that you're spending red orbs on short-term increases instead of long-term increases, you're also cutting your red orb gen for the round, because the game will actually nerf your rounds, your missions devil rank based on how many consumables you used, or if you use consumables at all. So it guts your red orb gen twice. Devil May Cry 3 and 4 fix this because they introduce a currency to the game called Proud Souls. They're a different resource you get from beating missions and bosses than red orbs. They're used to purchase abilities, and red orbs are still used to purchase consumables, but you don't utilize both anymore. And I think that was a good change. It means players won't hurt their kits long term, because you're only going to generate so many red orbs in a single playthrough. You can generate infinitely, technically, but no player is going to grind intuitively most of the time. And even if they do, they're not going to do it to the amount that would be required to max your kit out in a single run. So you're usually going to have an effective set amount of red orbs. So I think this change they introduced stops people from, in their initial playthrough, accidentally burning all their red orbs on consumables. I made a similar mistake myself in my first playthrough. And I think they made a good change in Devil May Cry 4, breaking it down into 2 currencies. But something I like is it still leaves the option of players who have foresight to utilize red orbs in a longer term gain, because blue orbs, which increase your max health, can still be purchased with red orbs. So it still gives the option, but it doesn't allow players the opportunity of hurting themselves in the long term by misusing their currency. That's just what I was talking about, because this is a component of a larger system. Like, I can show you my notepad I'm working on at the moment, but hack and slashes have different elements that build them up, and I've got a few different right now. Unique weapons, each with their own quirks, abilities, and usually unique upgrades in shops. An example of this would be Blaze of Chaos, Axe, and Rage in the base God of War. If you play the new God of War, they also add in the Spear. DMC3, you have Beowulf, the electric guitar, Cerberus, and dual swords. Cult of the Lamb, you have different weapons, and while you don't unlock them differently, you upgrade their abilities differently at a different stage in the game. Hades has the different weapons. That's one core component of hack and slashes. Another would be linear progression of skills or resource bars. Like in God of War, you can increase your rage and health bars, right? But you also have your shop system, which is different from this increase in linear progression. Like Hi-Fi Rush, you can purchase stuff with gears. God of War, you can purchase stuff with hack silver, and those are just ways that you can. Those are different elements of a hack and slash. They're just things I'm trying to identify in each game, so that way I can say what is a hack and slash.
I'm noticing that now, while you can use a lot of the limited currency in these games to upgrade your abilities, it's not inexplicably tied to the main core upgrade system like your weapons and your levels.
And those are
Like,
usually.
for example, you get experience in God of War, and that's used to level your Leviathan axe and your bow.
Exactly. And those upgrades are usually introduced at a fixed rate. And I say usually because this is where the line in the sand gets blurred a little bit. In some of the games, you can actually increase your progression on that linear path based on how many side quests you're willing to do. Like in God of War, you get more XP, but you also get different runes and abilities if you're willing to grind out side quests. You can get different augments. In Hades, you're able to get more darkness if you're.
It's also an interesting thing because you can actively make it more or less fun to grind to get stronger for the necessary boss fights in the game. And in Devil May Cry, they didn't really have that. They had secret missions. But
Yep, it is
aside from
technically
that-
in there, but it's not that well thought out in the first game. It gets better in
but
the later
God
ones.
of War, they introduce whole storylines with unique voice acting and stuff, not just like you find scribbled notes. It's like it's actively like you interact with Rock, you interact with Sindri, you need this whetstone, and it's like
Yeah, it's all very diegetic. I like that. And something about it I said is God of War doesn't do anything revolution. Well, when we say God of War, we're obviously talking about God of War 4. God of War doesn't do anything revolutionary to the hack and slash field. It doesn't overhaul any new mechanics. It doesn't do anything new or mind breaking. But what it does is it leans into existing mechanics of a hack and slash, and it does them well. It has great world building, great story. It has great music. The design looks great, and the combat feels fantastic.
The thing is that they didn't really reinvent anything. They just spent
They
80% time
reinforced.
polishing and reinforcing what already existed. Like when I
You
say
don't need to
polishing,
reinvent the
it's
wheel.
like
You can just do it good.
you can do it better. You
Yep.
can add rubber and you can add fucking suspension and
And that's why I put this on my list, is because it's not a unique entry into the series out of reinventing, but it is unique in how good it did it.
So much time on the story. They spent so much time on the graphics and making a unique feel to the world, making it feel very Nordic, very rustic, but also introducing a lot of good like there's so many different elements in the like voice acting, which is phenomenal.
Yep.
The story was very well written.
The
But also
graphics
just
look
the
great.
actual feel of the combat. If you've ever seen them talk about how like I know you've probably seen it, but that one interview with the guy who was doing a lot of the like motion capture suit
Mhm.
for God of War, talking about that's not how you actually punch, and it's like
Did you know they did motion capture for DMC, by the way? I sent you the
they
video
also
of it. It
did
looked
motion
hilarious.
capture for 7 Days to Die, surprisingly.
Yeah, I was caught
On
off
the
guard by
topic
that.
of like good body acting, I don't know if you can believe this, but on the topic of people who can play a body really well, you remember the alien who took over the farmer's body in what's it called in Men in Black?
Men in Black, yeah.
The guy who literally pulled his skin back.
Yeah.
But you remember how he was like fumbling everywhere, walking? Like that was all him acting. And now the more I think about it, it's like
Zombie actors, they're hard to get good zombie actors.
and that guy did a phenomenal job of making it look like there was actually.
I would
something
believe
in
you. You
his
told me he
skin.
was on. If you told me he was on Walking Dead, I believe you.
Yeah, but you know what the worst part is? He had by far one of the most convincing performances of that whole movie, and he didn't get a single award or accolade for that movie.
That is
That performance.
infuriating.
Dude, he did such a good job. But my point being is like all these different elements which can really bring the world to life. They worked on all of that, but they also equally worked well in the systems of the game. They didn't have to install anything new because the franchise, not the franchise, but the game design is pretty well fleshed out. I mean, to be fair, they kind of helped build it. With the
This is
first
another
game.
thing. This is another thing I said. Hack and slash as a genre has so many moving parts that fit together well, and if you can pull them together well, you create you create a superb game.
But yeah, we can talk more about this later because we would go on endlessly. But you and I got
Exactly. This is just a fascinating topic I like to talk about. I think it's a very fun one to talk about, and this is part of why I'm writing a script about it, because I know you're not always in the mood to talk about stuff like this, but this is why I like streaming. I get to talk to myself
That's
about
also
it.
why I like streaming because even when I was talking about like this is something I did a lot with Five Nights at Freddy's, and this is something why I played it so much.
Uh-huh.
I played it 100% to completion because the majority of the game I was talking about different aspects of I like about how I liked it. But because it was effectively a collection of all their games released up until that point, you could comment sequentially on different additions to the franchise, what things got better and what got worse over time. Imagine if you were able to play a VR game of all the God of War games sequentially and pick any level you wanted at any point in time. And then immediately be able to compare, man, these changes were good, these changes were bad. I like how they did this. I wonder why they didn't replicate this.
This is why I find game design so fascinating to talk about, and it's part of why I'm making this video in the first place. Stop him. This is why I don't let him in here. He's gonna knock that stuff over. I've got so much expensive stuff in here I can't afford to have him break, man. Don't grab him by the tail. I don't like that.
And grab him by the tail.
But yeah, no. If you want to talk more about the stuff, that'd be cool. But this is also why I'm writing all my thoughts out, getting it down. I really want to make a video about this. This is a topic I'm very passionate about. But yeah, I think I wrote down most of what I wanted to when I talked to you about it earlier, so I can end it here and we can go work for now if you want.
I think you should make when you make a video, you need to make chapters dedicated to the different parts.
I'm already on it. I'm already on it.
But for that, you basically need to create like a Venn diagram, or not a Venn diagram. That's the wrong kind of chart. But basically create like a T-bone chart and do that for each different game, or maybe create like an Excel block sheet and then compare the different parts of each game. Like compare, how did this game execute currency? How did this execute currency in like shops and stuff? How did this one work on this?
So that's something I'm trying to iron out right now. That's something I'm trying to figure out. I was going to ask for your help on this when I actually storyboard it.
This is one thing that I feel like both Hi-Fi and this is something that I realized all of the games tried to focus on really hard. The primary loop of a hack and slash is hacking and slashing, and since that's what 90% of the game content is looping around, one of your primary goals of making a hack and slash is to make it feel as rewarding as possible when you play it right, and make it as punishing as possible when you play
That's
it wrong.
one of the biggest things that got to me when I started.
This is what got to me with Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush is one of the most rewarding and punishing hack and slashes I've played, dependent on whether or not you hack and slash at the right time. Most games will give you a little bit more free reign than that, but that gives you a literal metronome to play on.
Yeah, and this is one of the things that got me interested in the first place. Is I played through Devil May.
Stop streaming whenever you're ready, by the way.
Yeah, I played through Devil May Cry when I first heard about it because I'm like, I like hack and slashes. They seem cool. I learned about it through Hi-Fi Rush because it reminded me of Kingdom Hearts. But the thing is, I felt DMC 1 was going to be a slog, so I treated it like a slog. But I realized when you engage with the systems in the way the devs intend you for, you get rewarded really hard. And I realized,
and this is why I tell you.
That's why they're built like that.
That's also why I tell you to play League the right way, because League is one of the best definitions of if you engage with the system as it's intended to be. It has some of the highest highs. I actually just got done recording a clip. You know, I played that Gangplank game, right?
Yeah.
I was struggling because I got ganked early. I was 0-2, but I played the lane right and I played the way I was supposed to. I built Sheen, I built high D items, and I just kept scaling and farming. And then eventually, in our first fight mid lane, I recorded because it was so funny. I pressed Q on the enemy Ahri once, and immediately her health bar shook down to 30%. I autoed her one more time, and she burned to death. And I just typed lol in all chat. She's like, WTF, I'm 9-3, and you hit me with 1 Q and 1 ability, and I died. I'm like, that's Gangplank. I have I have 400 AD, and I have like Sheen passive up, and I have Trial by Fire. You're going to blow up. It's essentially as if an ADC just hit you with their highest damage spell. Anyway, the reason why I'm saying this is like that's the weird thing I felt about Kingdom Hearts. Kingdom Hearts doesn't really feel that way. Like if I'm being honest, the first game's combat feels a little bit messy in the fact that it's like I feel like lots of hack and slashes can.
There's a reason for that. It's because if you haven't noticed, the game takes equal parts inspiration from hack and slash and action RPG. Yeah, it's because Square Enix had a hand in it. It's like half RPG role-playing game like Final Fantasy. The other half of it is hack and slash.
So it's meant to be like
exactly.
Yeah, but it's weird because it's like it's almost as if when you play what's it called?
Well, game.
So wait. Do you have a sticky note?
I don't. There's some over there if you want to grab them.
Okay.
Right there on that table.
You have a pen? I got pens.
Yeah, there's pens over there.
Okay. So when you play a game like Hi-Fi Rush, is the best way to and attack at key points that it tells you to, and if you do that, then you win and it gives you what you want, and if you don't, you take some sort of penalty, whether it's less damage or maybe less speed with clearing the level, which all plays into your score and by essentially your income and the strength you get. But the weird thing about Kingdom Hearts is it's like you know what I mean? It's like there's many different paths to take to get out of the game. It's almost like it's an interconnected mesh web because there's all these different possibilities of how you can play it, and you'll still get to the same endpoint, but it almost feels as if it's all meaningless because it feels like there's no actual increase to gain if you play it in any given different way. The only way to progress in Kingdom Hearts is kill everything in the room, leave the room, kill everything in the room, leave the room. But in Hi-Fi Rush, you have to kill them in a certain way. In Kingdom Hearts, you could do it by spamming like Balloon Gut or Thunder or
See,
Fire
now
Gut.
this, as I
But
said,
that doesn't punish you for any given way or reward you in any given way, and it's weird.
this is the interesting thing. So this is what I said about it. It's by design because that's the RPG element you're feeling. It's
Yeah,
like
this is
it's like a
RPG in a nutshell. It's
it's
go
a
wherever,
Pokemon
do
game.
whatever.
It's
just-
like you play Pokemon. If you grind enough or if you spell spam enough, you will eventually
But
beat
in
the game.
Pokemon, of course, it's like pushing you in a direction because of the routes. But essentially, you can go off and do almost anything at any given point in time. There are some quest times that will hard lock you, but it's a little bit more RPG oriented. But with like,
But with Hi-Fi Rush and like Devil May Cry, if you play, this is also why I play on critical mode because you scale so quickly in base Kingdom Hearts, it doesn't feel like a challenge most of the time because of the way you level.
Even when I was playing in critical mode, it only took me leveling up 3 times before Riku started to feel absolutely like an easy.
And this is why I like this is why I like hack and slashes more like the other ones, is because since they don't have that RPG element of you being able to increase your stats to brute force your way through most
Maybe
fights.
this is because I played a lot of League and I've become more of a competitive / skill oriented gamer as a result of it. I kind of struggle to find story element games that I'm into nowadays. But when I'm playing games like Kingdom Hearts, and God of War or like even Skyrim, Skyrim's a bad example, but whenever there's a difficulty slider on a game, I almost like to slide to the max because to me, struggling in a game is necessary, not always the most, but necessary to a degree in order to enjoy it. Because if there's no struggle and everything's handed to you on a plate the moment you want it, there's no point to playing, unless you're playing explicitly for the story. Which is why it says if you want a relaxed playthrough and you want to enjoy the story, do this setting. But my point being is that
that's another thing I have to add in is difficulty. Thank you for reminding me. Difficulty settings. It's something that hack and slashes like to do a lot. This may be other games as well. Is a lot of hack and slashes will do this thing of they offer you like 2 or 3 settings to start. It's like you have the easy setting if you want just story, you're not very good at this game. You have the normal setting, which is intended, and then sometimes they'll give you a hard setting where like, oh, you think you can handle it, go on hard,
and then
Buster.
they'll have like this isn't all hack and slash. Kingdom Hearts is a good example, but a lot of hack and slashes will have a secret harder difficulty that you have to beat the base game to unlock.
Exactly, that's where I was going with this, and I hate it when they do that because I like it when they have the option to enable it from the beginning of the game if you know about it.
The thing also about this is that I feel like it also depends on if the game is sequential or if it's had previous iterations. It is sometimes just specific to the franchise. But God of War, for example, has like had hard difficulties in the past, like with 4 and stuff, and they just offer it to you from the offset, which can be nice if you're a returning player from one of the previous games. You just want to try out the.
It can be bad though if you have a newer player try it, because this is how I burned myself out on Kingdom Hearts 2 because I tried on the hardest difficulty.
I almost burned myself out on Hades because they let it go at the beginning.
Now
you have access to the hard difficulty from the beginning. I did, and I almost burned myself.
Now
out.
I think the best balance to strike here is you don't let newer players see it, and better players will only know, like experienced players will know that it exists and have an alternative way to enable it. My best example of this is MGRR. MGRR lets you enable it with the Konami code if you know about it. This is the best of both worlds because it means returning players don't have to play through the base game again to play in a difficulty they want to. This is an issue I struggle with Kingdom Hearts, or not Kingdom Hearts. What was the other game called? Hi-Fi Rush. Because I played Hi-Fi Rush on Game Pass initially. I beat it on Game Pass. I know. Can you move him, please?
Is that plate in there?
Yes. Please move him. That has a plate in it.
Let go.
Yeah, so a good example of that, like you said, would be Hi-Fi Rush. Because Hi-Fi Rush has a really cool mechanic, and I think this might be from an earlier Devil May Cry game. They have a super secret difficulty where it's only available if you beat it on the game initially, but if you beat the game initially, it unlocks a difficulty where it's all the enemies have their stats super high jacked up, your stats are jacked down, and if your rank meter, it's called rhythm meter in that game, it's basically a rank meter because it's inspired by Devil May Cry. If it ever falls below C or B, it's one of the two, you instantly die. And I like that. I really wanted to play the game on the hardest difficulty because I hadn't played it.
That's cool. Imagine if in Devil May Cry, if you ever fell below a certain style, you would die. Although that's not really how it works. It doesn't start out at a set point.
It technically does. So that's the way that it works in Hi-Fi Rush as well. When you start combat, you start at a hidden style of around like C or B. Your style can go down to D.
So basically, as soon as you start combat, you start in a neutral state. If it ever goes to a negative state, you instantly lose. But the thing is, your style doesn't instantly get set to that negative state if you ever take damage or get a combo broken, but it takes a massive hit. I thought it instantly went to 0 as soon as you get hit because it disappears in base DMC, but it doesn't. It gets set down like 2 or 3 ranks, and if you get hit again, it instantly goes down. Which means it basically turns Hi-Fi Rush into a Souls-like. If you get hit twice in Hi-Fi Rush, it's less punishing in Hi-Fi Rush, but if you get hit like 2 or 3 times in Hi-Fi Rush, you effectively instantly die. Especially if you're not on a particularly high rating. But difficulty settings, purely availability of secret artist setting.
Anyway, as I was
I'm gonna put a question mark after this because that's a maybe, because that might just be a thing in action games in general. But these are the different parts I have so far. I was going to ask you for help about this when I get this more concrete, because I'm writing a script. I want to get something down so I can start working on it. But I have the game sectioned into different parts. Like, so basically, I have a main question. What is a hack and slash? And I broke this down into a few separate mini questions. It's just like, okay, what are common elements of a hack and slash? What are examples of hack and slashes, and how do they feature those elements? What do they do differently to set themselves apart? And then, what is my personal experience with hack and slashes? This is partially for the intro of like, why did I ask this question in the first place? And then, as like an ending stinger, how do I feel about them as a whole? And these are the questions I want to answer
I
in
feel
the
like
intro.
you and I have that like similar. So a lot of kids will experience like different childhoods due to the whims of whatever elements are around them. And one of the things that you and I had, I'm sure this happened to a lot of other kids. We got into Kingdom Hearts when we were children, but not because us, like many other kids, were into it.
That's all we had.
It's probably because PlayStation drops, parents are buying their kids in, and they're like, "Oh, what games are they like?" I don't know. They haven't really played games before, so they just go either to the bargain bin where they find games they can't sell, or they just look at the title and try to see stuff. And I'm wondering what's going through their heads. Are they like, "Oh, look at his Mickey and stuff on it"? It's like they'll like that, or is it like they look and like, "Oh, it's one of those cheap games in the bargain bin. It's $5 because they couldn't sell a copy."
For the parents that aren't gamers, they'll get their kids into games that either they like or they think they'll like. Because Zoli actually plays a lot of Rocket League because their dad plays Rocket League religiously. He has almost as many hours in it as we do League.
That's fair. So I can imagine if your parents aren't gamers, that might have some influence. If they are gamers, it has even more influence.
Mm-hmm. So that's how we got into Kingdom Hearts. And like this game,
I'm really curious. I'd like to ask Mom where she got that or why she got that.
it'd be good for lore if nothing else.
It'd be good for the lore.
This is where I'm at right now. So I have a list of games and what they bring to the table.
God, the PlayStation could not have been cheap when it came out. I wonder how she got us one of those.
Yep. And then on top of that, I have the story that I'm writing.
Nice that we had that. We had the PlayStation only like a few years after it dropped. Maybe a year or two after it dropped. That's because we got that really early into our childhood.
And as you said, I want to figure out how to section it because like the sections are basically going to be broken up by game. I'm going to discuss
so kind of think it like how you, because this is a video essay script, so think of it kind of similar to writing a paper, right? So you have to have your hook, your intro, but then you have to have your thesis. Your thesis is kind of where you cover the main points you'll go over later in the video. So the thesis is where you should try to cover, like talk about like the different, like the intro and the hook is you kind of setting up what the video is going to be about and also hooking people into it. So for this thesis, you have to talk about, and don't forget to turn off your stream.
Yeah, no, I can end it here because we're probably just gonna be ranting now about other things while we go do work. So I think this is a good place to end it. I got some good writing done though that I'm happy about. So I'll finish this up later.
About that thesis. So